stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News,
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 12 o'clock on Monday, the 18th of May. I'm Tom Harwood.
And I'm Emily Carver. A Brexit row erupts inside Labour, yes, after former Health Secretary Wes Streeting said he wants Britain to rejoin the EU. That prompted Andy Burnham to distance himself as he campaigns in a heavily pro-Brexit seat. Quite the U-turn, though, from these comments he made in September last year.
Long term, I'm going to be honest, I'm going to say it. I want to rejoin. I hope in my lifetime I see this country rejoin the European Union. I'm absolutely clear about that.
Well, will we finally hear from Sir Keir Starmer today? Allegedly still the Prime Minister, but he's not spoken to the public since last week, with allies insisting the Prime Minister is staying out despite the civil war, staying put despite that civil war in his party.
Yes, well, it's a week since I was at that press conference and asked the Prime Minister a question which he didn't answer, but he has been at Labour HQ today, and he has said that whoever the candidate is, and let's face it, it's going to be Andy Burnham in Makerfield, he will support them 100%, even though we know that Andy Burnham is coming after the Prime Minister's job.
I'm not going to be much more patient. No, I'm not. They should make a deal. Any sane person would make a deal, but they might be crazy.
Well, yes, President Trump tells Iran to move fast or there won't be anything left of them as tensions continue to escalate over the Strait of Hormuz.
Mob chaos on Britain's high streets, from mass shoplifting raids to violent crowd surges over designer watches. So what's driving this growing culture of public disorder among young people?
And the Chelsea Flower Show is in town, and justice has prevailed for gnomes as a 36-year ban on them has been overturned.
Yes, I'm live from a very busy Chelsea Flower Show. Lots of celebrities have been spotted already. We've had Brian May, Alan Titchmarsh, Miriam Margolyes. I suspect David Beckham may be about to show up as well, because he has collaborated with His Majesty the King on the curious garden behind me. Stay tuned to find out all about it.
Well, it's on.
It is.
Formally, it's on. Josh Simons, the MP for Makerfield, is no longer the MP for Makerfield. As of this morning, he has been appointed as the steward and bailiff of the Chiltern Hundreds, which means he can no longer be an MP, the curious way in which MPs resign, meaning that we should expect to hear more details about this by-election this afternoon.
What's he become, sorry?
The steward and bailiff of the Chiltern Hundreds.
The steward and bailiff of the Chiltern 300s.
Well, so it's
it's
shortened to the Chiltern Hundreds, but it is the 300s of Chiltern in technical
the 300s
language.
of Chiltern. So there you go. It is game on. And now Keir Starmer is being forced at Labour HQ to say, yes, I'm 100% behind this Andy Burnham chap. Yes, absolutely.
Funny how he's speaking to his party staff, but Catherine, one of the last journalists he spoke to was you, and that was over a week ago.
It was a week ago, and I have to say it feels like about a month because of the tsunami of news that has followed. But yes, we had that supposed reset speech, which was not enough. And I asked him about the core Labour vote, the working class feeling that the Labour Party had abandoned them. He didn't answer that question at all. Now, politicians often don't answer questions. We all know that, but it was so blatant. He just launched into an attack on Nigel Farage and Brexit and talked about more Europe and say, we have to talk about it. But, of course, Andy Burnham is standing in a seat which voted 65% to leave. Andy Burnham does not want to talk about Brexit, but Wes Streeting has made sure that we will be. And, of course, Reform will also make sure that we do.
But he's said a lot in the past, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Anyway, please do get your thoughts in. gbnews.com/your say. What do you make of it all?
Can I just say, that speech last week that the Prime Minister made, it does not feel like it was last week. It feels like it was a world ago, because since then we've had, 11 government resignations. We've had an MP resign. Andy Burnham declare that he's returning to Parliament to challenge the Prime Minister. Wes Streeting almost launched a leadership contest. I mean, what a crazy 7 days it's been.
And now we're refighting the Brexit wars. Yippee for us, eh?
Oh, I think everyone's tired. No one wants Labour to reopen the Brexit wars.
No.
We're so over it.
Maybe like 8% of the population
Right.
can't get enough of
goodness
Brexit wars. Anyway, should we get to the headlines with Katie Byrne?
Tom, Emily, thank you and good afternoon. The headlines at 5 minutes past 12. Sir Keir Starmer says he's focused on carrying out his duties as Prime Minister and that he'll support the Labour candidate in the upcoming Makerfield by-election 100%. The Prime Minister made those comments on a visit to Labour Party HQ this morning, also acknowledging that recent local election results tell us that people are frustrated. Earlier, the Deputy Prime Minister, David Lammy, said Sir Keir Starmer will fight on and won't announce a timetable for his departure, praising his strength of character and fighting experience. Josh Simons has now formally resigned as the MP for Makerfield, paving the way for a by-election in which the Mayor of Greater Manchester, Andy Burnham, wants to stand as the Labour candidate. Both Mr Burnham and his leadership rival Wes Streeting ignited a fresh row over Brexit this weekend. The former Health Secretary described leaving the EU as a catastrophic mistake, while Mr Burnham said there was a long-term case for advocating to rejoin, but insisted he was not campaigning on that issue in the by-election. Oil prices are climbing once again today after Donald Trump issued a fresh threat to Iran. The US president says the clock is ticking and Iran better get moving fast or there won't be anything left of them. Progress on a deal between the two countries has stalled in recent weeks. That's as there are reports today that Chancellor Rachel Reeves is expected to shelve plans to hike fuel duty by 5p per litre amid cost of living pressures brought on by the Iran war. The Treasury has not yet commented on the speculation. The hantavirus-hit cruise ship, the MV Hondius, has arrived at the port of Rotterdam this morning. The ship will now be disinfected and 25 crew members and 2 medics will go into quarantine. 3 people, a Dutch couple and a German national, have died since the start of the outbreak. That's as a medic who developed hantavirus symptoms on a remote British overseas territory is being cared for in a hospital in London. Arrests involving the National Crime Agency for offences linked to people smuggling have gone up by more than 55% in a year. That's according to the organisation. The NCA was involved in 300 arrests, both in the UK and overseas, in the year to April 2026, up 190 from the year before. The rise is said to follow an increase in resources, with more officers working to focus only on organised immigration crime. The Minister for Border Security and Asylum, Alex Norris, said the government has launched a record-breaking number of enforcement actions, including arrests and sanctions against migrant smuggling networks. Former Google executive Matt Britton will formally begin his tenure as Director General of the BBC today. Mr Britton takes over from Tim Davie, who resigned from the organisation in November following criticism over an edit of a speech by President Trump in an episode of Panorama. Arriving today, Mr Britton said the world needs the BBC more than ever. And Wolverhampton's Aaron Rai has become the first Englishman to win the US PGA Championship since 1919. It's the first major title in the 31-year-old's career so far. After being presented with the trophy and landing the £2.76 million prize, Mr Rai described the moment as very surreal. His triumph, which comes a month after Rory McIlroy retained his Masters title, marks the first time in the era of the 4 current major championships that the season's first 2 majors have been won by Europeans. Those are your latest GBNews headlines. Let's take a quick look at the markets.
Going through the ceiling, finding the floor. Stilts Home Lifts sponsors the GBNews Finance Report.
The pound will buy you $1.3369 US and 1.1485 euros. The price of gold is £3,400 per ounce and the FTSE 100's at 10,214 points.
GBNews Finance Report, brought to you by Stilts Home Lifts.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's now 9 minutes past midday, and the Labour Party's Brexit battle has reignited as Andy Burnham's allies are accusing Wes Streeting of attempting to derail his campaign to number 10. Well, let's take a listen to the former Health Secretary over the weekend.
The biggest economic opportunity we have is on our doorstep. We need a new special relationship with the EU because Britain's future lies with Europe and one day, back in the European Union.
OK, so that's what Wes Streeting has to say, but Andy Burnham has now been forced to distance himself from the debate, insisting he will stand on local issues alone.
Are you in favour of rejoining the European Union?
I've said in the long term there is a case for that, but I'm not advocating that in this by-election. In fact, what I am saying is focus now domestically. Britain has got to focus very much on the here and now.
But that's quite a U-turn from the comments he made only in September.
Long term, I'm going to be honest, I'm going to say it. I want to rejoin. I hope in my lifetime I see this country rejoin the European Union. I'm absolutely clear about that.
Well, there you go. Let's speak to GBNews chief political correspondent Catherine Forster to find out more about all this. Catherine, can Andy Burnham play this? How does he play this? He's got to speak to the Makerfield audience, who are pro-Brexit, by and large, but also try and, get the Labour Party on board for him to be potential Prime Minister.
I think it's incredibly difficult because, yes, he's called the King of the North. Yes, growth in Manchester, 3.1%, double the national average. He is very popular in the North West. But Makerfield is a seat that has been Labour since 1907. But in the local elections, all the wards went to Reform, and in fact, I've got it here, I read this earlier and I couldn't believe it. In the general election in 2024, more people voted Reform than in any other seat that Labour won. So he's got, if you like, the very hardest seat to win, and I'm pretty sure he must regret making that comment at conference last year where he said, I'm going to say it, I'd like us to rejoin in my lifetime. Now he's trying to backpedal that. And he has apparently assured various Red Wall MPs that he doesn't want to sort of refight this. But, it's very difficult. And one of the Red Wall MPs, Jonathan Hinder, this morning has said there's absolutely no way I can support somebody who thinks that the way to unite our country is to go big on rejoining the European Union. Says, I'm not going to support Wes Streeting. He said it on Saturday. Not going to support Andy Burnham either. And it just reminds me of the Prime Minister's speech last week in London, talking about more Europe, and he's going, we have to talk about it. But of course, these communities that feel that Labour has abandoned them, the problems predate Brexit by decades. Brexit is not the cause of all the ills in these communities, but I think it's going to be very difficult.
And also, we can look to countries like France and Germany, where there have been practically zero growth over the last decade as well. I mean, it doesn't look like a panacea. But there is a question mark here, not just about the policy in specific, but the way that Andy Burnham is approaching it. Because speaking in September, he was angling. I mean, we were there at Labour Party conference and everyone was talking about Andy Burnham and his tilt for the leadership. He was running a sort of proto-campaign at that conference. And his pitch then was more Europe and rejoin the European Union eventually. He got headlines by saying those sorts of things. And yet now, because of the seat that he's chosen to fight, he's saying the opposite. This feeds into this question mark over Andy Burnham. But is he just as much of a flip-flopper as Keir Starmer? I mean, he's been a Blairite in the past, then he was a Brownite, then he was a Milibandite, then he was a Corbynista. I mean, this is a guy who has had many different issues, many different positions on many different issues. And I suppose it raises the question, is it going to be more of the same flip-flop?
Well, yes, there's that joke, isn't there? A Brownite, a Blairite and Corbynite went into a bar, the barman says, what are you having, Mr Burnham? And he has changed position, but he's been very clear in the interviews that he's done over the weekend. He said, I want to take Labour back to where it should be, where it traditionally was, which is the party of the working class. The problem that he has is many of the working class communities in the Red Wall in Wales and Scotland voted for Brexit and they think that the Labour Party doesn't represent them anymore, and can Andy Burnham persuade them that that is not the case? Because at the moment, so many of them have gone off to reform. Look, I've met Andy Burnham a few times. I've talked to him about Northern Transport in particular. He's very friendly. He's very affable. He is popular. But I think it's not really that he's chosen this seat. There's been lots of seats that I've heard talked of. I mean, there was a different seat literally the day before this one was announced. I think this is the toughest seat for him to win. I think it was this or nothing. But of course, if he wins it, he's going to be PM, isn't he? Because if he can beat Reform here in a heavily Reform-leaning now, Brexit-backing seat, he gives the Labour Party hope. But if he can't, and I think it is absolutely touch and go, I think the Labour Party will be in free fall. I mean, it is existential. Who are the Labour Party for?
Well, Keir Starmer says the working people. Andy Burnham says the working class. Is there a difference there?
I like how everyone's trying to sort of ventriloquise what the working class really think.
I know.
Do we now still live in a country where people sort of vote on massive blocks due to class interests? I think we might have moved beyond that.
Well, it's very complicated how people vote now, isn't it?
Yeah.
With all the different parties.
It's
Catherine,
no longer just because your parents voted for one way, you're necessarily going to vote that way too.
The tribes are divided. Catherine, thank you very much indeed. Shall we speak to Megan Kenyon, who's the political correspondent at the New Statesman? Megan, thank you for joining us. I was just talking about Andy Burnham and what his actual pledge to Makerfield and then perhaps the country might look like.
Yeah, I suppose, as you mentioned there, Andy Burnham has obviously had to kind of discuss his position on Europe, but I think it's his plan for Makerfield is obviously far bigger than that. He's already said he won't talk about it in the campaign. He has been the mayor of Manchester, Greater Manchester, for some time, is known in the Northwest, has got kind of tangible things he can point to that he's done. So the B network, the bus network in Manchester. But you're right, I think wider than that, he is setting out a plan for the Labour Party to kind of pull them out of this slump that they're maybe in. But I think it's quite extraordinary that we have someone running in a by-election on an explicit platform to replace the Prime Minister, and seeing the Prime Minister and Burnham's other key rival, Wes Streeting, going up there potentially to campaign for him. So, yeah, it's a bizarre set of circumstances.
I wonder to what extent we're about to see a sort of civil war in the Labour Party, not just on policies, but perhaps on geographies as well. Andy Burnham making a pitch for this particular seat, wanting to represent the sort of reform-facing Labour vote. Wes Streeting, of course, a Member of Parliament in London, with a very different electorate, facing off Muslim independents and the Greens, talking perhaps more to a liberal metropolitan view of what the Labour Party electorate is like. You almost have these two different views of the Labour Party represented in these two different men.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think it's quite interesting that Andy Burnham is seen as sort of the soft left candidate in this race. Obviously, the seat he's fighting in isn't particularly a soft left seat. That's maybe kind of a flippant way to talk about it. So he's kind of having to sort of present himself to the whole of the party. But I suppose that's kind of what he said over the weekend, was that that's his intention and he wants to save Labour. But I think this is a debate that's been going on within the Labour Party for a long time, kind of who does it represent, who does it speak to. I think with Keir Starmer, we've kind of seen something of an attempt to kind of go through the centre ground, but it hasn't really worked.
Yeah.
I think because he's... Oh, sorry.
And Megan, he's going to be forced to talk about things that perhaps he won't want to talk about, not just Brexit, but of course the big issue of immigration. The Reform Party are already attacking on that issue in particular, saying that Andy Burnham would essentially open the door to 1 million low-skilled migrants being allowed British citizenship. He won't stop the boats. He'll put them in bedsits on your street. This is coming from Robert Jenrick. And he says to pay for it, he'll have to hike your taxes. Today we've just just heard from the International Monetary Fund, the IMF, and they say that we're at peak tax, i.e. we can't have taxes go any higher. What's Andy going to do about all that?
I suppose, obviously, Wes Streeting has had time now to set out his initial policy platform. Andy Burnham hasn't quite had that yet because, as we've kind of mentioned, he's been fighting a by-election. He hasn't really had the chance to explicitly say what he would do as leader, because what's the point when you haven't even got a parliamentary seat? I think, you know, I've had discussions with people within the Labour Party whether there's a question of him keeping Shabana Mahmood on board. Obviously, her immigration reforms have been controversial in some parts of the party, but have been positioned as sort of trying to take on some of those reform voters. So I think there's definitely options for Andy Burnham, but we'll just have to wait and see. He's not really set out his stall yet, so we'll just have to wait and see what happens there.
OK, well, Megan Kenyon, political correspondent at The New Statesman, thanks indeed for joining us and talking through what is yet another fascinating week in our politics.
He's got to, though, because everyone knows what he's up to. He's got to set out both stalls, both for Makerfield and for potential Prime Minister.
I feel like this is where his shine might start to rub off. I mean, the guy's worked in Westminster since he was 21 years old.
Gosh.
He was a political advisor, then a special advisor, then he was an MP in 2001. I mean, the guy is politician through and through.
So he hasn't had a proper job.
Perhaps he will come up with a politician's answer, which, like so many politicians, pleases no one.
Yeah, say different things to different people. Anyway, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. We've got lots more coming up. Yes, mob chaos on Britain's high streets. Again, mass shoplifting raids, violent crowd surges. What on earth is going on? What's driving this growing culture of disorder among our young people?
But after the break, President Trump tells Iran to move fast or there won't be anything left of them. You've heard that one before. This as tensions escalate over the Strait of Hormuz yet again. Well, we'll have the very latest.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace to Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
the Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
Because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's Tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong Tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 24 minutes past midday. Now, Donald Trump has issued a chilling warning to Iran, telling them to move fast towards a deal or there won't be anything left of them. And that's a sentence I think I could have said in February, in March, in April, and now we're into May, and it seems like we're on the same carousel.
Yeah, I think we're talking about this, months ago. Anyway, let's take a listen to him on Fox News.
I'm not going to be much more patient. No, I'm not. They should make a deal. Any sane person would make a deal. But they might be crazy.
Well, the threat came after a call with Benjamin Netanyahu, as those tensions over that good old Strait of Hormuz continue.
Well, should we find out what's going on, see if anything new, anything's changed? Professor of US Foreign and Security Policy, David Dunn. David, what is the latest? As Tom says, we've heard this before.
Well, indeed, it sounded like a bit of a broken record. What's new is increasing frustration on Trump's part, and he will have had Netanyahu pushing him to actually resume the strikes. The Israeli position is that they want to try and use this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to destroy as much of Iran's military capability and nuclear industrial capability as possible, and they want to get the US to help them in doing so. So, in a sense, the timing comes from that context. But the American position hasn't really changed that much in that the Americans have shown that they're incapable of destroying all the ballistic missile capability that the Iranians have. And the Iranians, in turn, have shown that they are able to both close the Strait of Hormuz and to threaten the oil and industrial infrastructure of the Gulf states, including Saudi Arabia, and therefore they recognise that they are in a strong position. So he can huff and puff as much as he likes, but actually the ability to dissuade or to deter Iran from their actions is limited.
Here, in terms of Trump sort of talking himself up into action, the conventional wisdom has been that as the midterms approach in November, Trump wants to wind down this war because gas prices have gone far too high. His approval has taken a nosedive. People think he hasn't been handling the economy well, inflation well, the war well. It's all linked together. That, on the one hand, has pushed the sort of doves in the Republican Party to perhaps focus on less bombing and more negotiation, more jaw, less war. However, the more that Trump says an entire civilization will die tonight, we're going to wipe you out, fire and fury will rain from heaven, all of these things, the more he says that, unless he actually follows through with some of it, his word's going to count for less.
Yeah, it's a classic crying wolf, isn't it? The more you say this and then don't follow through with any action, the more those words seem empty. And actually his talk of civilizational destruction are really counterproductive. The Persian Empire is 5,000 years old, or the civilization is 5,000 years old. That memory of that empire is big in their minds. And so he's saying any rational person would do a deal. Yeah, but you're not necessarily dealing with people who are rational in the same way that he thinks in business terms or real estate terms. They actually see themselves as defeating the Johnny-come-lately in America. They talk about a country with only 250 years of history. And therefore they're able to galvanise a sense of civilizational identity, of nationalism, and they're prepared to wait him out. And they see his threats like this as more evidence of bluster and frustration, because they recognise that he's impatient. He doesn't want to wait on his blockade of Iranian ports to go through, because he has all those political pressures that you mentioned that are wanting him to actually wind this thing up and come home. He's also reportedly bored of being briefed about the war, and that doesn't play to the American strengths, and the Iranians are playing a long game and trying to wait him out.
OK, well, David Dunn, thank you very much indeed, Professor of US Foreign and Security Policy. Here we go again.
Here we go again. I did like that allusion to the last 5,000 years of history, though, because it does remind us that actually, before the Islamic Revolution in '79, Iran was a Western-facing country. Iran was a great ally of Israel in the region. Traditionally, the Persians would define themselves against the Arabs, and the Persians defined themselves as sort of being incredibly pro-Western and pro-Israel. I mean, dating back to the sort of origin of Iran as a country, Cyrus the Great, who came in and freed the Jews in the ancient land of Israel. I mean, that link between Israel and Iran was incredibly strong up until the Islamic Revolution.
Oh, yeah, and look at how women were living.
Yes.
The difference between the 70s and now is quite stark.
Mini skirts galore.
Mini skirts galore. We love a mini skirt, don't we?
Absolutely do. The surest sign of freedom.
If you've got the legs for it.
But you know what? Even if you don't and it's sunny, you do you.
Yeah. If you've got a mini skirt, wear it. Who cares if you've got thunder thighs, Tom?
That'll show the Ayatollah. Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more still to come on today's programme, including maybe even a mini skirt. But here's your news headlines.
Good afternoon. The headlines at 12:30. Downing Street says the Prime Minister will fight the next election and that there is no timetable for Sir Keir Starmer's departure. That's as Josh Simons has now formally resigned as the MP for Makerfield, paving the way for a by-election in which Andy Burnham hopes to stand as Labour's candidate. There are reports today that Chancellor Rachel Reeves is expected to shelve plans to hike fuel duty amid cost of living pressures brought on by the Iran war. Oil prices are climbing once again today after Donald Trump issued a fresh threat to Iran, telling them they better get moving fast or there won't be anything left of them. The hantavirus-hit cruise ship MV Hondius has arrived at the port of Rotterdam today. The ship will now be disinfected and 25 crew members and 2 medics will go into quarantine. The Maldives government said that the bodies of all of the scuba divers had now been located after one was found missing last week. 5 Italians are believed to have died while exploring a cave at a depth of around 50 metres, according to Italy's foreign ministry. And Wolverhampton's Aaron Rai has become the first Englishman to win the US PGA Championship since 1919. Mr. Rai described the moment as very surreal. Those are the headlines for now. More news at 1 o'clock.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Well, what's coming up? Well, it's the mob chaos on Britain's High Street. Yes, mass shoplifting raids, violent crowd surges over designer watches. It's pathetic, but what's growing this culture of public disorder among young people? And will we hear from our Prime Minister?
Oh, a little birdie tells me that we might. But all of that and more to come. You're with GB News, Britain's #1 news channel.
Hello and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Warmer weather is on the way, but before it turns warmer, it's going to turn wetter. A lot of cloud today, showery rain, some sunshine in between the showers, especially towards the north and the east of the UK. But weather systems are rolling in now from the west and southwest. A number of weather fronts are going to affect us during the next 48 hours or so. First weather front bringing showers to many northern and eastern parts of the UK. Some heavy downpours, even the odd rumble of thunder. The best of the dry weather, northeast Scotland, especially Shetland and Orkney. Further west, showers ease, but some longer spells of rain start to approach by the end of the afternoon. A lot of cloud here. Feeling a touch less cold compared with recent days, but with a lot of cloud in the sky, not especially pleasant. We end the day with the showers moving their way east and northeast across Scotland, merging to give longer spells of rain at times. Some sunshine in between, especially the west coast and the east coast inland. It's more showery and cloudier. And we've got this area of cloud and showers affecting the Pennines into the Midlands, East Anglia and the southeast. Further west, as I say, the showers easing, but more persistent damp weather approaching Northern Ireland, Wales and the southwest. Winds freshening through the evening, and then the heavier rain moves in overnight across Northern Ireland, Wales and the southwest. Rain also reaching eastern and some northern parts of the UK, but the far northeast staying largely dry, with a lot of cloud and that wind picking up. It's a milder night compared with many recent nights, temperatures staying in the double figures in places, but a damp start to the day for Scotland, for northern England and the east. Then we've got brighter skies emerging from the west, but with lots of showers moving in, especially for Western England, Wales and Northern Ireland. These showers will be slow moving and heavy, but at least where we avoid the showers, it will feel a bit warmer.
Thank you, Britain, for all of you who listen to GB News Radio.
Whether you're at home or on the go, you're making us Britain's news channel and Britain's radio station.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. A road incident on the westbound A420 between Old Craighall and Millerhill is disrupting commuter traffic. On the A1 northbound in Newcastle upon Tyne, a collision has closed one lane, causing 10-minute delays. The southbound exit slip at Sandbach Services on the M6 remains closed. In Hampshire, motorists face 40-minute delays on the A34 southbound. And on the trains, there are disruptions affecting cross-country services to and from Cardiff Central and Great Western Railway routes between Exeter, St David's and Exmouth. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 35 minutes past midday. Now, from flash mob shoplifting raids at JD Sports to violent crowd surges outside Swatch shops, concerns are growing over youth disorder on our streets.
Yes, the government is apparently now considering military-style academies for teenagers at risk of falling into crime, after figures revealed around 80% of prolific offenders first committed crimes as children. Have we lost control of youth behaviour? So what we're looking at right now is a JD Sports in Ilford, which I believe is where Streeting's seat, the former health secretary, and this is JD Sports as well. And basically these bunch of hooligans masked up, with their hoods up, of course, just run in, grab clothes, snatch them off the rails, and then take to the escalators. Meanwhile, you've got female shop workers trying to wrestle them themselves to get the clothing back.
And good on those shop workers, because a lot of the time shop workers will just stand on, look by, and not intervene. But I mean, whoever that particular worker is who's trying to grab some of those clothes back deserves a medal, quite frankly.
But we're seeing more and more of this, and do let us know if this is happening where you live. Have you witnessed this type of thing? Children, because they are probably children, teenagers, running in en masse into a shop, creating chaos, nicking everything, and no one is able to stop it, and you rarely hear of arrests afterwards. But also, the other thing that's been going on is this new Swatch watch, which is a royal pop timepiece. I think it's been worn by people like Drake and things. Right. So it's very, very popular, one of a kind, and it's like a cheapo version of some kind of amazing watch. Anyway, around the country, these shops have been forced to close because of hordes of teenagers literally trying to fight each other to get at them.
Here's the problem. I mean,
you were quiet over the weekend. Were you trying to get your hands on one of these royal pop pieces?
I was witness to my sister's marriage over the weekend. So
yeah.
A very, very happy marriage to my sister and her new husband, Dan.
Congratulations.
But anyway, I think one of the big problems here is that law and order and civil society rest not on the ability to literally arrest every single human being if one person decides to do wrong, but on the vast majority of people behaving and following the rules with the understanding that it's absolutely wrong to disobey the rules. If there is suddenly a breakdown in that understanding and we require policing for every individual, then our society just doesn't work. I mean, we sort of almost rely on the fiction that if you commit a crime, you will be caught. Because we know that there's no... I mean, with the numbers of police we have versus the number of people in the country, there's no way... We can get by with sort of, 0.5% of people misbehaving because we can deal with that. But if you suddenly get larger and larger numbers doing it, the system collapses. It just can't cope.
Yeah, I mean, police were called over this what would you call it? These hundreds of youths trying to get these Swatch watches, whatever they are. Manchester, Cardiff, Birmingham, Liverpool, Manchester, Sheffield. I said Manchester twice there. They had to close the shops. Police had to come.
Yeah.
Just to try and protect the shops and the shop workers from all of these feral kids.
And we've seen it in Clapham as well, in South London.
Was that M&S, Waitrose?
The whole high street had to shut. I've got a friend who was trapped in a shop and had to wait there until they could be cleared. And it's not as if the police weren't there.
How long were they trapped in the shop for?
I don't actually know how long they were trapped in the shop for, but all the shops locked, and they locked people inside them as these children. I mean, we say children. I mean, what are they? They're sort of teenagers, right? There's probably 16, 17, maybe some of them are adults, but I think it is a strange thing that we treat, in legal terms, a 13-year-old the same as a 17-year-old, because they're fundamentally different human beings. Anyway, it is a worrying trend. And it's also difficult to talk about because there does seem to be an ethnic element to it too. I mean, in many of these scenarios, it is ethnic minority kids that are doing this. And I don't know if that is a lack of integration, if that is a separation from society. I mean, there is a clear and growing problem here.
Yeah, it's happening in inner city areas, isn't it, really? And these kids are acting like feral yobbos. What do we do about it, though? You know, the rest of us law-abiding folk don't want to pop to the shops and be met with that. Thank you very much. Let us know your solutions. Do you think we should have these military-style institutions, academies, where we teach children how to behave? Would that work? Do parents need to
be a school? Isn't a school where you're supposed to teach children to behave?
I don't know. I think parents are supposed to do it, but they aren't doing it in some circumstances. Obviously, now I'm the perfect parent.
Of course.
I've been doing it for 8 months.
Well, your child has never committed a crime, has he?
No, he hasn't.
Partly
He's
because he can't walk yet, but...
He's knocked over a few flower pots.
Oh,
so
no.
there you go.
Oh, dear.
Anyway.
Your flower pots, I hope. Rather than anyone else's.
My flower pots, yes. But David Lammy says that parents perhaps should be punished for their children's misbehaviour, so let us know what you think about that.
I don't think that's necessarily a bad idea.
Yeah, well, it's time for the Great British Giveaway. It is your chance to win £76,543.21 in tax-free cash. Here's how to enter.
We're counting down to a spectacular summer. It's your chance to win £76,543 and 21 pence in totally tax-free cash. A lump sum that you could have in time to splash out with this summer. Imagine all the things you could do with that cash. Give the garden a glow up, max out on a new motor, or just make sure the coming year is your year. And because it's tax-free, you get to keep every single penny for a chance to win £76,543 and 21 pence in tax-free cash. Text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pulled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Right, well, we're going to speak to Ken Hines, who is the CEO of Communities Against Violence. Ken, thank you very much. We don't have very long, but what should we do about all this bad behaviour, this sort of charging into shops en masse, these youths just nicking everything they can, running away and seemingly getting away with it?
Well, you need to have stronger deterrent through a combination of not just punishment, but also about looking at the raising self-esteem. I am guarantee you, from all the work I've been doing for the many years, I find that you could tackle the symptoms, but the underlying issue is about people got low self-esteem and thinking it's a great idea when they're going to social media and hearing their friends suggesting doing something stupid that can actually affect their life throughout. I'm talking about lifelong effect on them. Simply, punishment alone doesn't work. But if we can do something about mental well-being, emotional well-being, I think it will get a lot more positive outcomes.
So you think these kids just feel like what, that they haven't got any hope in life, that they don't have any sort of aspirations, so therefore they think, well, I may as well go around acting like this?
They've got no reference what it is to be a responsible and caring person. Right. I get a lot of inquiries from parents who's at there, pulling their hair out because their child are intimidating them. Because they may be single parent and they're thinking that they're the man in the house, but yet they're not bringing nothing but turmoil into the home. Do you understand? Like now, they sit in front of the computers, play all day long, smoking weed, creating mess in the home. The mothers are crying out for help, and yet we want to further punish them. What we've got to do, they've got too much self-entitlement. They've got too much rights, but we need a balanced responsibility, which I don't see.
It's such a vivid picture you paint there, actually, of a single mother who's had a darling baby boy who suddenly turns into a man at the age of... I mean, some of these kids, age sort of 13 or 14, they're suddenly huge and imposing and disobeying, and you've just got one mother in a household not knowing what to do. I mean, that is actually a really stark and worrying situation that must be happening completely the country over in these sort of single-parent households.
Absolutely.
Ken, thanks indeed for expressing the work that you've been doing, and hopefully we can find a solution to this, because it is dire. But Ken Hines, CEO of Communities Against Violence, thanks indeed for joining us.
Yeah, well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. We've got lots more coming up. Yes, the Chelsea Flower Show is in town, and justice has prevailed because gnomes are back after a 36-year ban. The gnomes are back.
Goodness me. Well, if you're in search of some holiday sun and want to find a sunnier part of the world than the Chelsea Flower Show, which looks a little overcast today, but hopefully it's better over the weekend.
Hopefully there aren't any just stop boilers there, you know? They like to attack the Chelsea Flower Show.
Gosh, well, weather in Europe now.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello, we've got some rain affecting France as we go through Tuesday, warm in the sunshine elsewhere with a few showers. There is a bit more cloud across the Canary Islands and across Madeira, best of the sunshine across Portugal and Spain. Outbreaks of rain affecting France. Elsewhere, many places seeing sunny spells, a few showers bubbling up as we go into the afternoons, but otherwise temperatures are on the rise, plenty of sunshine, highs into the mid to high 20s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that, because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
Needs to stop. You think we can allow?
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Neil, my partner, I don't drive anymore, but my partner Neil was driving, and we'd been to have a manicure and a pedicure, which one always does on a particular day, and we were coming back home, and we would turn the corner onto a busy road, which is a dual carriageway near the Tower of London, and Neil suddenly stopped behind a car, which was letting some people off into a hotel. And then I said, move, because the car moved in front. And Neil said, it's dead. There's nothing happening. And the whole car just sort of stopped. And I tried to open the door, and I couldn't open the door. I tried to open the window, couldn't open the window. We couldn't do the hazard lights. And cars were zooming down this road at about 40 to 50 miles an hour. Now, it was a 20-mile-an-hour limit to this road, which is important, because Neil rang the insurance. The insurance gave the RAC the number, and we then communicated with them, and this was at 5:45 in the evening. And they said, we'll be with you between 12 and 2 a.m. So we panicked. There was a terrible panic because cars were zooming down, moving out into the road to not bump into us. And I was really panicking. And what happened next was that when we decided we couldn't get out, I then rang the police. Now, the police, I spoke to this girl, and this police girl said, no, we can't come and collect you, I'm afraid. I said, I'm terrified. And she said, no, sorry, we can't come and collect you. It was just so frustrating.
GB News, the People's Channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's coming up to 10 to 1. Now a host of famous faces are gathered today for an exclusive first look of this year's Chelsea Flower Show.
Yes, from a garden designed with the King, Sir David Beckham and Alan Titchmarsh.
Goodness me, and for the second time in history, the Noma ban is being lifted to raise funds for the Royal Horticultural Society's work with schools.
OK, well, we're joined now by GB News Royal correspondent Cameron Walker, who is there for us. Cameron, is this Gnome ban, unban, is this a PR stunt?
Well, it's completely been unbanned, Emily. There's been a number of gnomes with names written on it, including the King, David Beckham. We've got an Alan Titchmarsh gnome as well, and a couple of others too. All of them, as you say, being auctioned off to fund the work that the RHS does, the Royal Horticultural Society, to get young people and children involved in gardening and being out and about in nature. And that is why also, while I'm stood outside the King's Foundation Garden 2. Now, it's a collaboration between the King, Sir David Beckham and Alan Titchmarsh and others, called The Curious Garden, trying to encourage the nation to get back outdoors and enjoy gardening and be curious, perhaps, about nature. The King, of course, his ethos, we know, is living in harmony with nature, not apart from nature. But David Beckham and the King was collaborating on this garden as it was being made. And there's 7 raised beds and nods to the number 7 on David Beckham's England shirt when he played for them. There's also a beehive, a working beehive in the garden, so hopefully we don't suddenly swarm on everybody here at Chelsea Flower Show, because the King and Sir David share a passion for beekeeping. But do you know, even if you don't like gardening at the Chelsea Flower Show, there is so much to see here. They've really made it beautiful outside the Royal Chelsea Hospital. Celebrity spotting here is absolutely insane. Who have I seen? I've seen Brian May, I've seen Miriam Margolyes, I've seen Piers Morgan, I've seen lots of other people here, and of course David Beckham we are expecting here in the next couple of hours to kind of unveil the King's Garden here. Of course, open to the public for a number of days here for the rest of the week. Hopefully the weather just about holds out. It was sunny this morning, it's clouded over, but of course it's great old British weather, isn't it? So let's see if May can keep the sun here rather than rain.
Well, Cameron Walker, thank you very much indeed for being there at the Chelsea Flower Show for that sneak peek, first sort of advanced view of what it's all going to be like.
Yes, indeed. Well, we have a very special guest with us now. You might recognise this man from the Met Office weather reports, but today he's joined us in the studio to talk about the much-needed warm weather that's coming our way. Haven't you heard, Tom?
Well, fingers crossed. Let's speak now to the meteorologist and presenter at the Met Office, Alex Burkill. Alex, thanks for being with us. Firstly, to Cameron's hope there for the Chelsea Flower Show, is it going to be a bit nicer in the coming days than the overcast show that we've got today?
There's definitely going to be more changeable weather through the next few days, and I think many of us will notice the chill out there at the moment. It's feeling pretty cold for the time of year. Things are going to be warming up. Our wind direction's changing, so we're getting more of a southwesterly. So temperatures will be rising. There is more rain to come, but as you alluded to, things are warming up even further, and there's some potentially pretty fine weather in store for the bank holiday weekend.
It's going to be a heat wave, isn't it?
Maybe not quite a heat wave.
No?
We have some pretty strict definitions when it comes to calling a heat wave or not, but it does look like Friday we could see temperatures high 20s, 27, 28 Celsius, and then Saturday's a bit of a question mark in as much as the hot weather could continue. We could possibly get low 30s on Saturday. But I think it's more likely that we start to see some showers, some thunderstorms, and if that happens, then temperatures will be pegged back a little bit. But then more fine weather through Sunday, Monday. They look pretty decent.
Now, meteorology doesn't have the most... how do I put this? Sort of accurate. The public don't feel like.
What are you
it's the most
saying here,
accurate
Tom?
profession.
What are you saying?
But
You're
it
slagging
is-
off the profession.
No. That's the first half of the question. That's the public perception. But it is true to say that in recent decades, it's got much more accurate than where the field was 20 or 30 years ago. How accurate is our weather forecasting today?
So you're right, our accuracy has improved massively and we continue to improve. We learn on past mistakes, past forecasts, and then we're constantly getting better. Even if it's not our supercomputer and our computer models getting better, it's our forecasters, our meteorologists. We learn, and so we're improving all the time. In terms of how accurate it is, I mean, here at the Met Office, we are one of the leading organisations around the world, so we pride ourselves with how accurate we can be. But it all really depends on the weather setup. A situation that we've got through the next couple of days, and even I mentioned Friday, Saturday, there's the potential for some thunderstorms. Even on Friday and Saturday, we won't be able to be too precise with where and when those thunderstorms will develop. Whereas I'm more confident with the fact that Sunday and Monday will have high pressure across us, and so it will look largely fine. So even though they're further ahead in the future, I actually have higher confidence for that occurring.
That's really interesting, because often I just think, OK, we're going to... If the weather forecast tomorrow says one thing, I'm going to trust that more than the weather forecast in 2 or 3 days' time or a week's time. And yet this is not always the case. I wonder... Given what we now know, that we now have sort of satellite information, weather balloons, it's much more than sort of just lick your finger and stick it in the air and think this is a cold front coming in. I'm not so sure. How has this evolved over the years? I mean, is it technology that has improved this?
It's technology and understanding. So if you go back 100, 150 years ago when the idea of forecasting weather was still relatively new and fewer countries were doing it. We were the first, and then other countries have started taking it on board, and over decades they've come to a similar level. But it's partly the supercomputer and partly just our understanding of science has evolved and changed. We understand better what's happening in the atmosphere. Now, we often talk about the short term and, you know, the weather that's going to happen in the next day or so. But we have to look at the much bigger picture. We're looking at everything that's happening around the world, because that will have knock-on effects to what's happening here in a couple of days' time, and also what will happen in a couple of weeks' time. And so understanding everything, not just what's happening in the UK, is really important.
OK, well, Alex Burkill, thank you very much indeed, meteorologist and presenter at the Met Office. Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain.
It certainly is, and I'm fingers crossed that this weekend is going to be nice and sunny. I think it's about time for a barbecue, I think.
It is, and my brother's getting married, so hopefully it'll be a fine day.
Well, it's a
splendid day.
Time of year for marriages, isn't it?
Right, so love is in the air, eh? Nuptials.
Well, lots more coming up.
We're counting down to a spectacular summer. It's your chance to win £76,543 and 21 pence in totally tax-free cash. A lump sum that you could have in time to splash out with this summer. And because it's tax-free, you get to keep every single penny. For a chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry starts at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray. Are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time.
But I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
From court mornings
to warm family brunches.
From football to tennis. In the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there. With the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it? We're here again to start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Well, good afternoon, Britain. It is now 1 o'clock on Monday, the 18th of May. I'm Emily Carver.
And I'm Tom Harwood. Well, Lincoln, you'll miss it. A Brexit row erupts inside Labour after the former Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, says he wants Britain to rejoin the European Union, prompting Andy Burnham to try to distance himself as he campaigns in a heavily pro-Brexit seat.
And will we finally hear from this man, Sir Keir Starmer, today? The Prime Minister hasn't spoken to us since last Monday, I believe it was, with allies insisting the Prime Minister is staying put despite the Labour civil war. He also says he's going to back Andy Burnham in a by-election.
Britain has been overwhelmed by immigration, both legal and illegal. More people have turned up on our beaches uninvited over the last 7 years than stormed the beaches of Normandy on D-Day.
Well, that video has been removed from TikTok, banned under the terms of the Online Safety Act. They claim it's hate speech, but Youssef accuses Labour of silencing their opponents by using the Online Safety Act.
And there's blue badge backlash today. Councils are apparently handing out permits for anxiety and ADHD as claims for hidden disabilities soar. Well, we might be hearing from Andy Burnham. At some point.
Yeah, and he's been speaking a lot more to the media than this current Prime Minister. I mean, say what you want about Andy Burnham, but have you been looking at his Twitter feed today? He has been replying to journalists. I mean, I think it's actually quite a novel way of doing politics, that where, you know, a story is written about, say, Andy Burnham going for a run, and a lot of people were claiming that he was just doing this for the cameras and why was his car parked somewhere along the run and all the rest of it. But he's been replying to these stories himself, or maybe his team has, as a sort of one-man rebuttal campaign, saying, oh no, I often park my car at the station and do this run and whatever. And I think this is just quite a nice, novel way to do politics. Instead of operating through officious press offices and sort of waiting for...
These politicians shouldn't be spending all of their time on Twitter.
They shouldn't.
It's appalling. It's all they're obsessed with. They're on Twitter in the chamber. You know this. You agree with me. They shouldn't always be on their flipping phones.
They should not be on their phones in the chamber. I absolutely
This is how they always U-turn, because they see a tweet, and then they see something erupt on social media and then they think, oh, we can't do that.
But I do think that there is something refreshing in, for instance, you know, a piece of news goes out about Andy Burnham. He can immediately just get in the comments and reply. I mean, he's been replying to Alex Armstrong, our colleague, as well. I mean, just sort of...
Oh, has he now?
I think he sent 2 tweets to Alex Armstrong Trump in the last 24 hours. I don't know.
Obsessed.
There's a bit of a bromance going on there, perhaps.
I don't think so.
But no, I think that it's one of the things that did well for Donald Trump initially. I'm still sad that Donald Trump doesn't tweet as much as he used to, because whilst it is sort of erratic, you do feel like you're getting sort of inside the brain of some of
Donald Trump has his own social media platform, doesn't he? Do we need an Andy Burnham social?
God.
Good grief.
Please let's not have more siloed social media.
But this man hasn't even been chosen as the candidate yet.
No.
There is absolutely, there's a huge chance that he won't even win the seat if he does get to contest it. And then it's another big gamble as to whether he'd be able to contest the leadership of the Labour Party. So there's a lot of hoops, aren't there, that this man has to get through?
Many hoops. Labour selects its candidate on Thursday officially, although the NEC selects a shortlist on Wednesday. I think everyone's expecting he'll be on the shortlist, but I mean, it's possible he won't be. I think vanishingly unlikely, but it's possible he won't be on the shortlist. And then there's every possibility, and I think this is also vanishingly unlikely, that the local party in Makerfield, the local Labour Party, will just select someone else. I mean, it's possible.
I mean, I think a lot of people in the area will be thinking, actually, I don't want to be told who to vote for. And potentially facilitate someone to become the Prime Minister in such a fashion.
There is this sort of argument.
It would wind me up.
Using the people of Makerfield.
Well, exactly.
This isn't. He's not going to be a campaigning local MP, is he? He's going to just sort of swan in there and then immediately move down to Westminster.
I think it's unbecoming. Anyway, gbnews.com/your say. Let us know your thoughts. And in the meantime, we'll get the headlines with Katie.
Tom, Emily, thank you and good afternoon. The headlines at 1:04. Downing Street says the Prime Minister will fight the next election and that there is no timetable for Sir Keir Starmer's departure. Speaking at Labour Party HQ today, the Prime Minister said that he is fully focused on the job at hand, while also acknowledging that recent local election results tell us that people are frustrated. He added that he'll support the Labour candidate in the upcoming Makerfield by-election 100%. Josh Simons has now formally resigned as the MP for Makerfield, paving the way for a by-election in which Greater Manchester Mayor Andy Burnham wants to stand as the Labour candidate. Both Mr Burnham and his leadership rival Wes Streeting ignited a fresh row over Brexit this weekend. The former Health Secretary described leaving the EU as a catastrophic mistake, while Mr Burnham said that there was a long-term case for advocating to rejoin, but insisted he was not campaigning on that issue in the by-election. Elsewhere, oil prices are climbing once again today after Donald Trump issued a fresh threat to Iran. The US president says the clock is ticking and that Iran better get moving fast, or there won't be anything left of them. Progress on a deal between the two countries has stalled in recent weeks. That's as there are reports today that Chancellor Rachel Reeves is expected to shelve plans to hike fuel duty by 5p per litre amid cost of living pressures brought on by the Iran war. The Treasury has not yet commented on the speculation. The hantavirus hit cruise ship, the MV Hondius, has arrived at the port of Rotterdam today. The ship will now be disinfected and 25 crew members and 2 medics will go into quarantine. 3 people, a Dutch couple and a German national, have died since the start of the outbreak. That's as a medic who developed hantavirus symptoms on a remote British overseas territory is being cared for in a hospital in London. In other news, arrests involving the National Crime Agency for offences linked to people smuggling have gone up by more than 55% in a year. That's according to the organisation. The NCA was involved in 300 arrests, both in the UK and overseas in the year to April 2026, up from 190 the year before. The rise is said to follow an increase in resources, with more officers working to focus only on organised immigration crime. Minister for Border Security and Asylum, Alex Norris, said that the government has launched a record-breaking number of enforcement actions, including arrests and sanctions, against migrant smuggling networks. Former Google executive Matt Britton will formally begin his tenure as Director General of the BBC today. Mr Britton takes over from Tim Davie, who resigned from the organisation in November following criticism of an edit of a speech by President Trump in an episode of Panorama. Arriving today, Mr Britton said the world needs the BBC more than ever. The bodies of 4 missing divers have been found in the Maldives. 5 Italians are believed to have died while exploring a cave at a depth of around 50 metres, according to Italy's foreign ministry. The Maldives government said that the bodies of all of the scuba divers had now been located after one of the missing was found last week. Rough weather has impacted rescue efforts throughout the mission. And Wolverhampton's Aaron Rai has become the first Englishman to win the US PGA Championship since 1919. It's the first major title in the 31-year-old's career so far. After being presented with the trophy and landing the £2.76 million prize, Mr Rai described the moment as very surreal. His triumph, which comes a month after Rory McIlroy retained his Masters title, marks the first time in the era of the 4 current major championships that the season's first 2 majors have been won by Europeans. Those are your latest GBNews headlines. A quick look at the markets.
Markets on the move. Stilts Home Lifts sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
The pound will buy you $1.3358 and €1.1481. The price of gold is £3,399 per ounce, and the FTSE 100 is at 10,222 points.
GB News Finance Report, brought to you by Stilts Home Lifts.
Well, it's all go, go, go in the Labour Party, isn't it? And Brexit is back in town. Yes, the battle has reignited because Andy Burnham's allies are accusing Wes Streeting, the former Health Secretary, of attempting to derail Burnham's campaign to number 10.
But in order for his campaign to be derailed, this has to assume that Andy Burnham was trying to hide something from the electorate that now he's going to have to talk about. I'm not sure this is the smartest tactic for his team to brief out, but let's take a listen to what the former Health Secretary said over the weekend.
The biggest economic opportunity we have is on our doorstep. We need a new special relationship with the EU because Britain's future lies with Europe and one day, back in the European Union.
Yes, Andy Burnham, though, has attempted to distance himself from the whole debate and insisting he's going to stand on local issues.
Are you in favour of rejoining the European Union?
I've said in the long term there is a case for that, but I'm not advocating that in this by-election. In fact, what I am saying is focus now domestically. Britain has got to focus very much on the here and now.
Well, that's what he's saying today, but it's quite the U-turn from comments he made in September.
Long term, I'm going to be honest, I'm going to say it. I want to rejoin. I hope in my lifetime I see this country rejoin the European Union. I'm absolutely clear about that.
Well, it looks like, Keir Starmer wants us closer to the European Union, Wes Streeting wants us closer to the European Union, Andy Burnham wants us closer to the European Union. Is there much difference?
Well, Streeting and Burnham have said they want to rejoin, which is something that Starmer only said before he was Prime Minister.
Yes, well, quite, yes.
Before he was party leader.
Should we speak to GB News Chief Political Correspondent Catherine Forster? Because, Catherine, I believe Keir Starmer has had something to say. And might we hear from Andy Burnham sooner rather than later?
Yes, well, good afternoon from Downing Street. It's raining again. I was here all last week and it seemed to rain for much of it. But yes, we heard from the Prime Minister. He went to speak to people at Labour HQ, talking about how difficult the results had been, but highlighting what they say are their achievements: Breakfast Club, Employment Rights Bill, planning reforms, and so on and so forth. Basically giving the message that everything continues. He's been elected to do the job and nothing will pull focus from that. But he did say that whoever is selected to stand in Makerfield, and we'll find out for sure on Thursday, but look, let's face it, it's going to be the Mayor of Greater Manchester, Andy Burnham, that he will have the Prime Minister's full support and that he will be happy to campaign for him to win that by-election, and that all Labour MPs should do the same, despite the fact, of course, that we know that Andy Burnham is campaigning to get that seat so that he can mount a challenge to the Prime Minister. But in the meantime, We're expecting to hear from Andy Burnham. He's at a Northern Investment Summit, so we will hopefully hear from him soon. But back here, the message from Number 10 is pretty much nothing has changed. I think we heard that nothing has changed phrase once before, didn't we, from Theresa May? Didn't work out too well for her. Anyway, at the lobby briefing, the Prime Minister's spokesman has insisted that Sir Keir Starmer will fight the next election, and that what he said in that Observer interview 8 days ago, that he wants a decade in power, still stands. Also, that there is no timetable for departure. Says we are delivering for the British people and accelerating the pace for change. The Prime Minister is fully focused on it. And then on Brexit that Labour didn't used to want to talk about. They didn't want to worry people that had voted for Brexit in 2016. It was almost like a dirty word. But now the Prime Minister said at that reset speech that didn't reset things last Monday that we need more Europe, a closer relationship. Wes Streeting went further at the weekend. Andy Burnham said that he'd like to rejoin in his lifetime, but is now trying to sort of soft pedal on that. On Brexit, the PM spokesman said that the Brexit red lines still stand, but also the next manifesto is a matter for the party. So and the Deputy Prime Minister said this morning, we still see set red lines in the manifesto we are absolutely committed to. Then on Peter Mandelson, more Mandelson files expected. We originally thought that might be late this week. It sounds like it won't be, but of course we know that that's going to pile more pressure on the Prime Minister. And on fuel duty, well, they won't comment on speculation that fuel duty is going to be frozen again, but of course we expect that it will be, given the cost of living crisis and what's happening in the Strait of Hormuz, or rather not happening, because of course it is still closed.
OK, Catherine Forster, thank you very much indeed. They're outside Downing Street, our chief political correspondent. So Andy Burnham's essentially got to convince the people of Makerfield to not only elect him to be their representative in Parliament, but then also potentially be the Prime Minister. It's a big decision for the people of Makerfield.
It is, and I think this is funny because in some ways, I mean, Keir Starmer has said today he's going to absolutely campaign for whoever the candidate is. But everyone will know that every ballot cast for Andy Burnham in Makerfield is actually a ballot to remove Keir Starmer as Prime Minister.
Yeah.
And so how can Keir Starmer campaign in Makerfield or say vote Labour in Makerfield when he's signing his own death warrant?
I mean, to me, this just looks totally self-indulgent, but let us know your thoughts. We're going to speak to the Brexit commentator, Henry Bolton. Henry, what do you make of all this? Brexit back again, this time with the Labour Party fighting over it.
Well, I'm quite sure Andy Burnham didn't want this to come up as the main issue, but I think he can thank Wes Streeting for that, who deliberately or otherwise has made life more difficult for Andy Burnham by bringing this up. Andy Burnham now cannot avoid the Brexit issue, partly because you've got Reform and you've got Restore, both very staunchly sort of pro-Brexit, really sort of now competing against Burnham. It's a problem for him because the constituency voted about 64%, I think, for leave during the referendum, and that's a big mountain to climb if that becomes a central issue of the argument. But of course, then there is the argument, or the whole issue, as you quite rightly said, about this isn't just about the local area. This is, I think, rather. I think there are a lot of things wrong with British politics, but one of the things that I don't like about it is national parties playing national politics over the future of a local constituency or a local area. The people of Makerfield are being used by the Labour Party, and this isn't a political party point. It's any party is perhaps potentially guilty of this sort of thing, but the Labour Party is using the people of Makerfield to fight a national issue. Yeah. They have no choice in saying this. They probably didn't want this by-election. So you've got all of that in the mix as well. I think it's going to be a very interesting by-election. I wouldn't want to call it. You've got so many things in the mix. But ultimately, one of the things I hear people talking about, we've got to stop Burnham or we've got to support Burnham, whichever way it is. But if Burnham sort of loses this, then the Labour Party is not going anywhere yet. You're still going to end up with either Burnham or Streeting or Rayner or Starmer still in number 10 Downing Street and leading the Labour Party. So actually, for the Labour Party, this is a very big thing. But for the nation, it's not going to be quite the tectonic shift that I think people are sort of implying through some of the commentary. We're going to end up with
different shades of socialism.
Still bound by their manifesto as they are, and yet, Henry, there is a question mark here. We've looked at some of the sort of suggestions and forecasts and models trying to predict the result in this seat, and it does look like there's sort of 3 or 4 points in it, whichever way you cut it. It's going to be very tight between the Reform Party and the Labour Party. You mentioned a little bit earlier in one of your responses that the Restore Party is standing also in this seat. They selected their candidate today. The Conservative Party is also standing. I mean, is there a chance, really, that the centre-right vote is going to be split in this seat and Burnham's going to come through the middle?
Yes, there is. Of course there is. I mean, I think, objectively, there are two things I'd say about that. One is that, as I say, what is the objective? Is the objective to stop Burnham? And if so, have people thought through what happens if Burnham is stopped? There will be a leader of the Conservative Party, and that's my point. Who is that going to be? Possibly from the right and centre-right perspective, it doesn't make a great deal of difference who that person is. It's still going to be somebody who they intrinsically oppose.
But Henry, it does matter in terms of narrative, doesn't it? If the Labour Party is seen to win this Brexit-backing seat, if the Labour Party is seen to win this working class area that sort of everyone in the country understands the Labour Party has currently lost.
A very white working class area.
And a white working class area, absolutely. I mean, if the Labour Party is seen to win this, suddenly that's not just the Prime Minister changing, that's the entire narrative changing. That's a massive narrative shift where suddenly these very worried Labour MPs sitting in their seats thinking they're going to lose their job are all going to think, oh, great, we're actually going to win our seat now. We can go off and do all sorts of socialistic things.
Yeah, perhaps. But the other thing I was going to say is, though, that do we want to... Another problem we've got in politics generally is we spend more time voting against things than we do for things. And if we were to have people voting for something positive, for the candidate they actually preferred, or the party that they actually prefer, then we might end up with 650 far better quality members of Parliament in Parliament and a whole different scenario. So we need to get towards that. But I think, look, you are right. Those signals may be sent, but I suspect in the sort of post-mortem or whatever after this by-election, people will also be looking at what is the proportion of the vote on the centre-left, centre-right, right and left. Are you going to have tactical voting? And not many people are talking about this. To keep sort of Reform or whoever out, are you going to have the Greens, the Liberal Democrats and Labour all getting behind Andy Burnham?
I don't know if people do that after elections. I mean, for example, in the 2019 European elections, when the Brexit Party won those elections, everyone knows that the Brexit Party won the European elections then in May or June 2019. Afterwards, you had a lot of Lib Dems trying to add up all of the Remain parties and try and claim that the Remain parties had a larger share. No one cared. No one thinks of it that way by adding up the parties and the shares of the vote, because people vote for the parties that, and in our system, it's the first party.
Well, what's true, I'm sure we can all agree that it feels like these politicians are just playing games with our lives. And this is all about our lives. This is the direction of our country, and it does feel entirely self-indulgent, I must say. But, Henry, we're going to have to leave it there. Very sorry. We'll speak to you again, I'm sure. Brexit commentator there, Henry Bolton.
Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more still to come.
Yes, there's outrage after women at a political rally this weekend appeared on stage wearing burqas before then removing them. Was this political protest and free speech, or simply offensive? We're going to debate that.
But after the break, the Nova Music Festival exhibition opens in Britain for the first time, remembering the victims and survivors of the October 7th attacks. We'll be there live. Well, all of that and more to come. You're with GB News, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off-limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
the Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
Because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's Tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong Tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Well, good afternoon, Britain. It is now 1:25. The Nova Music Festival exhibition, which acts as a memorial to October the 7th victims and survivors, is opening for the first time in the UK.
Well, the exhibition features various artefacts from the devastating day, including personal items of the victims and scorched, bullet-ridden vehicles.
Yes, joining us now from the exhibition is GB News national reporter Will Godley. Will Godley, what's taking place today, then?
Well, good afternoon to you both. Well, yeah, this is the Nova Festival exhibition. As you say, it's deeply moving being here today, seeing and witnessing the horrors that Hamas inflicted on those 3,000 or so festival goers at that festival on the 7th of October. But also it's highly immersive. You might be able to hear sounds that were recorded on that day. And there's also artefacts here from that very day, from the festival goers. Take a look at some of the pictures that we filmed a little bit earlier on of the tents that people left behind, of some shoes, some clothing, and also toiletries, all left behind from that fateful day as people were trying to flee the infliction of Hamas. Of course, this was the deadliest terror attack in Israel's history. More than 400 people died and 44 taken hostage, including Elkanah Bobot. Thank you very much for joining us on GB News. How does it feel for you to be here seeing artefacts you would have seen for the last time on 7th of October? It must be incredibly emotional for you.
Yes, look, to come to here for me, it's not easy. For sure, it's not easy. And when I go to another room to remember the room, first I see my friend, and it's very sensitivity for me. Sorry. And what you see, everything I see on my eyes, yeah? And to come to here, it's not easy for me. It's very hard. I take cry here, and I take a stop 3 times. And I feel, really, when I come here, I feel it's like take me back to 7 October, absolutely.
What sort of memories does it bring back for you?
You see the cars, the tent, the sunglasses, the shoes, and you feel it. It's differently when you see something on the channel, when you're a house, and when you come to this exhibition and performance is very important. And especially for me, because I make the festival. I make the Nova with another partner. He killed by Hamas, Osher and Michael, and another partner is Omri and Yagil. He's still alive, Baruch Hashem. And so to come here, first time in my life. You know, Nova, I do many exhibitions in Berlin, Toronto, Buenos Aires, Los Angeles, but I be in the tunnel. So it's the first time for me, and it's not easy, really.
But for you, the horrors, as you say, didn't end on October the 7th. You were held in captivity by Hamas in Gaza for 738 days, more than 2 years. How was that for you?
Look, still today, I not believe it happened. Still today. But it was terrible inside. 788 days with no food, no pills when you're sick, no water, no clothes. I see myself first time after 2 years. I see my face after 2 years. It's horrible. It's crazy, and you don't know if you're gonna be alive next 1 minute. This is a crazy situation, and when you inside the tunnel, it's like 788 days without sunshine, no air, no light, and you have to survive. And many bombs around you, and rockets, and terrorists is holding you and keep you, and anything he want, he can do with you. It's like this.
And it wasn't just the physical torture, was it, but also mental, psychological torture. They told you your family had died. How was the psychological torture for you?
For me, you know, he touched exactly the point. He know is doing traumatic or something, and he know. For me to survive is to think my family. My wife Rebecca and my son is waiting for me. I live in when he was 3 years old, and I back to him like almost 6, yeah. And this is what is holding me inside, to think about my boy and about my wife, and he know that. So what happened when the war between Iran and Israel is opening, the first war? He come to me and he say, your life, Rebecca, and your son, he killed and dead, and when you go out, you don't have your wife and you don't have your boy. And he tell me day after day, and I just not believe, really. I come inside and I say, Elkanah, now you have to survive. Don't listen nobody. If something happen, you know that after, when you go out. If you go out.
And survive you haven't, and now you're here in London at this festival. Very quickly, what's your message to the people of the UK?
My message is really come, guys. If you can come to this place to see on your eyes what happened on the screen and feel the clothes and feel the shoes is very different. Please come for 1 minute. Who is feeling something different about Israel or about the 7 October or about the situation between Gaza and Israel? Please come here for 1 minute. That's what I want.
Okay, Elkanah, thank you very much for talking to us on GB News. Fascinating talking to you. So glad that you are free now. Thanks for talking to us on GB News. This is the Nova Experience. Starts on Wednesday and it's here in London for 6 weeks.
Thank you very much, Will Godley, for being there at the exhibition. Very important for us to remember, and also thank you for bringing us that first-hand experience.
Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more still to come on today's programme, but first, let's take a look at today's latest headlines.
Good afternoon. The headlines at 1:32. Downing Street says the Prime Minister will fight the next election and that there is no timetable for Sir Keir Starmer's departure. That's as Josh Simons has now formally resigned as the MP for Makerfield, paving the way for a by-election in which Andy Burnham hopes to stand as Labour's candidate. In other news, the IMF has upgraded its forecast for the UK's growth this year, but warned the Iran war and domestic uncertainty could hit the economy. The growth estimate has been upgraded to 1% from 0.8% for 2026. The organisation said the UK remained resilient, but added the ongoing conflict in the Middle East risked hitting growth and resulting in higher energy and food prices. The bodies of 4 missing divers have been found in the Maldives. 5 Italians in total are believed to have died while exploring a cave at a depth of around 50 metres, as according to Italy's foreign ministry. The hantavirus hit cruise ship, the MV Hondius, has arrived at the port of Rotterdam. The ship will now be disinfected and 25 crew members and 2 medics will go into quarantine. And Wolverhampton's Aaron Rai has become the first Englishman to win the US PGA Championship since 1919. Mr. Rai described the moment as very surreal. Those are the headlines for now. More news at 2 o'clock.
You can now watch GB News live across the United States of America and the world on Truth Plus. Scan the QR code to find out more or visit gbnews.com/truth.
Well, thank you very much. Lots more coming up on today's programme.
Yes, there's been a lot of outrage online after 3 women appeared on stage at a political rally over the weekend wearing burqas before they removed them in front of thousands of people at the Unite the Kingdom march. Was this a political protest and free speech or simply offensive to Muslim women?
All of that and more to come with GB News, Britain's #1 news channel.
Hello and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Warmer weather is on the way, but before it turns warmer, it's going to turn wetter. A lot of cloud today, showery rain, some sunshine in between the showers, especially towards the north and the east of the UK. But weather systems are rolling in now from the west and southwest. A number of weather fronts are going to affect us during the next 48 hours or so. First weather front bringing showers to many northern and eastern parts of the UK. Some heavy downpours, even the odd rumble of thunder. The best of the dry weather, northeast Scotland, especially Shetland and Orkney. Further west, showers ease, but some longer spells of rain start to approach by the end of the afternoon. A lot of cloud here. Feeling a touch less cold compared with recent days, but with a lot of cloud in the sky, not especially pleasant. We end the day with the showers moving their way east and northeast across Scotland, merging to give longer spells of rain at times. Some sunshine in between, especially the west coast and the east coast inland. It's more showery and cloudier. And we've got this area of cloud and showers affecting the Pennines into the Midlands, East Anglia and the southeast. Further west, as I say, the showers easing, but more persistent damp weather approaching Northern Ireland, Wales and the southwest. Winds freshening through the evening, and then the heavier rain moves in overnight across Northern Ireland, Wales and the southwest. Rain also reaching eastern and some northern parts of the UK, but the far northeast staying largely dry with a lot of cloud and that wind picking up. It's a milder night compared with many recent nights, temperatures staying in the double figures in places, but a damp start to the day for Scotland, for northern England and the east. Then we've got brighter skies emerging from the west, but with lots of showers moving in, especially for Western England, Wales and Northern Ireland. These showers will be slow moving and heavy, but at least where we avoid the showers, it will feel a bit warmer.
Thank you, Britain, for the thousands of you who are becoming friends of GB News each and every week.
Good afternoon, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. On the A1M southbound exit slip at junction 35 in Doncaster, one of 2 lanes is closed due to a collision, with traffic expected to resume shortly after 2:55 this afternoon. In Cheshire East, all lanes remain closed on the M6 southbound exit slip at Sandbach Services for road management, with clearance expected before 3 this afternoon. Hampshire's A34 southbound between the A272 and junction with the M3 is congested, causing about 30 minutes of delay. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast services between Stafford and Lichfield Trent Valley face disruption. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Well, it's 1:37. Welcome back to Good Afternoon Britain. Now, a rally stunt involving women removing burqas on stage has gone viral over the weekend after footage shared by Unite the Kingdom sparked anger from many Muslims and other commentators.
Well, supporters say it was a political statement about integration and the freedom of women to wear what they want. Critics say it mocked a deeply personal religious garment worn by Muslim women. So where's the line between protest, free speech and offence?
Well, joining us now to discuss this is human rights activist Alicia Ali Khan. Alicia, this has very much divided people. We've even had politicians over in the United States getting involved, saying that, you know, Western women should have the right to protest against this garment. What do you think?
Hi, Emily. Hi, Tom. So I think the whole argument centres against just mocking the burqa or the niqab or any face covering or any religious covering that is worn by Muslim women. And I think a lot of the people I've spoken to, and this includes myself as well, feel that this stunt was unnecessary. If you really want to make a political comment about the freedoms or lack of freedom that women enjoy or don't enjoy in the UK, there's so many other ways of doing it. And people then, obviously, the numbers always come up. How many women are wearing, how many Muslim women are wearing the niqab, the burqa, and the numbers are tiny, absolutely minuscule. We're talking between 3,000 to 5,000 women, and that is, again, we have no idea how many women actually choose to wear this. And Emily, Tom, I've been on this show so many times. I've argued against forcibly women being forced to wear garments and clothing that they don't want to wear. I'm completely against things like the hijab, like the burqa, the niqab, that's forced on women.
Aisha,
but we also have to respect the choice of women.
Just to interrupt, but do you know when those figures are from? Because I can't believe it's only 3,000 to 5,000. I think those numbers might be a little outdated, because you do notice more and more, particularly in cities, that women are choosing to wear the full covering.
If it's a choice.
If it's a choice.
If it's a choice, absolutely. So those figures are online. I've spoken to people myself, and what people find is if they go to places like Dewsbury, for example, or Oldham, where there's a high population of Muslim anyway, of course you're going to see more people wearing those, because the population reflects the Muslim population reflects that. But in cities like London, I hardly ever see anybody wearing the niqab or the burqa in London.
I walked past someone on Knightsbridge High Street yesterday. I think it's called Knightsbridge High Street. Anyway, the High Street in Knightsbridge. I walked past someone in a full burqa just yesterday. I think I've started to see it a bit more in this country in recent years.
I think, Tom, what you saw were visitors from the Arab countries that are coming into the UK, that are spending ridiculous amounts of money on expensive Chanel and Chanel handbags. So, of course, they are visitors. We're talking about actual British citizens that are living in the UK. The vast majority of Muslim women do not wear any kind of covering. They're like myself, they're professionals, and some, they just don't,
That's
choose
true, but you
to
do
wear
see
because...
it. Yeah, you do see it more, but to get back to the point of this stunt, I can see how people would find it unnecessarily aggressive. However, there are a lot of people in this country who find the garment very offensive, because you cannot see the identity of the woman. There's a lot of misogynistic connotations with this garment. They don't necessarily believe that it's even a religious practice anyway, rather a culture that people don't want to necessarily be imported into Britain, where it's very, very alien to our traditions. So if people find the garment offensive, are they not able to then mock it?
Well, the difference is... the reasoning behind this mocking of the burqa over the weekend was to say we want to liberate Muslim women, we want to give them freedom, we want them to be part of mainstream society. And again, I remember 10 years ago when Boris Johnson made his comments, the letterbox comments that he made about Muslim women wearing the niqab, which was hugely offensive. We saw 375% increase in attacks on Muslim women in the weeks following, and those statistics are from the Tell Mama website. So lots and lots of women came forward to say that we've been, assaulted, we've been harassed, we've been sworn at, we've had people come up and try to forcibly remove, pull off the hijabs. And this is the fear that I had when I saw this stunt on Saturday, that people are going to think, hang on, this is unnecessary, we need to help these women.
Boris Johnson writing that the burqa looks like a letterbox
in a column,
in
by
a
the way.
Spectator column, where he says that they have a right to wear it, led to a 3,500% increase in hate crimes against. I mean, I find that hard to believe. Causation, correlation.
Sorry, 375%, so nearly 400% increase in reported attacks and harassment of Muslim women. And that's what my fear is this time, Emily, and that this could lead to people going up to women wearing the niqab, wearing the burqa, and trying to forcibly remove it because they don't feel it necessary. And again, some Islamic rulings do not feel this is a necessary garment to wear. This is a personal choice. And I've always argued if you want to wear a bikini or you want to wear a burqa, it's entirely the choice of women.
Sorry, we're going to have to interrupt you. Andy Burnham is speaking. We're going to go live to Andy Burnham.
Oh, you will. You certainly will. But you've put us in an amazing place. You gave the mayors the ambition to start thinking this way, and here we are. Here we are. It's brilliant. And thanks to the government for their backing for the idea. And it can happen. It can happen. It is possible. But only with big changes now to the way this country is run, and that's what I want to talk about today. As you've probably worked out, I think you know where I'm going now, don't you? Makerfield is no ordinary by-election. I'm getting plenty of advice about what I should do, the main piece being, for God's sake, get some new running shorts. If you've got any, Brendan, send them my way. I believe the by-election is very necessary. In my view, the time has come for a much bigger debate about how politics needs to change if it is to work properly for the north of England, because it doesn't. It doesn't. And this is what we've got to focus on. People are losing faith in politics. More than anything, that's what people's votes were saying on Thursday, the 7th of May. They deserve a bigger response than politicians have given them before. And that's what I intend to provide in this by-election like no other. My core argument is this. Britain, if you look at the last 50 years, Britain has been on the wrong path. 40 years on the wrong path. A path that has damaged communities across the north. The deindustrialisation of the 1980s was devastating for places across Makerfield, like Ashton in Makerfield, Orrell, Winstanley, Hindley, Plattbridge. But you could reel off the same place names, couldn't you, in your communities? You know exactly what I am talking about. The draining away of economic, social and political power from these places, left adrift. That's what happened. But that deindustrialisation was then compounded by deregulation, privatisation in the 90s, and austerity in the 2010s. It all adds up to 40 years of neoliberalism that have not been kind to the north of England. 40 years of trickle-down economics that did not, in the end, trickle down very much at all to Plattbridge or Hindley. In fact, that system has siphoned wealth out of those places and into the hands of people for whom life was already very good. It created an economy that didn't work for most working people. It led to the loss of good jobs, the decline of our high streets and the neglect of our towns. It led to people paying over the odds for the daily basics: energy, housing, water, transport. And in the 2000s, and particularly in the 2010s, our councils across the north of England were stripped of the resource and power to do anything about it. They just don't have the agency that they should have to protect people from these changes. And that's the broken state of local government in England that we see right now, but is particularly felt in councils across the north. You know the truth of what I'm saying. It's left us in a very bad state. If politics can't fix something as simple as a pothole, you've got a very big problem. Why should people have faith in the ability of politics to do anything if it can't do something as simple as that? And how unfair is it on those councillors who work hard in their communities and then just get swept away because of the failure of national government to protect local government and give them the ability to make basic improvements in their communities? It's not right. It's just not right. And it needs saying that it's not right, and I'm here to do that. We just need a completely different relationship between national and local government. What we've got at the moment across large parts of the north of England, as good as the last decade has been in terms of the start we've made with devolution, underneath the combined authorities, sadly, we have hollowed out councils, and we have an unaccountable state where too much is delivered by arm's length or outsourced agencies that local councillors can't control. So many crucial services, like housing and energy, delivered by fragmented agencies outside of local democratic control. Let me give you a couple of examples. In recent times, we have experienced severe repeat flooding in Plattbridge, Bickershaw and Ashton. Caroline Simpson, Group Chief Executive of the Greater Manchester Combined Authority, answered a call from myself as Mayor and Josh Simons as local MP to get the agencies around the table. And we had to move heaven and earth to get that single conversation going, and a plan to deal with it, which we're still waiting for. It shouldn't be like that. We had to confront them with difficult questions like this. Why don't the rivers and brooks around this part of the Wigan Borough have gauges so that people get a warning of a flood like they do in other parts of the country? Some of our more deprived communities should be at the top of the list for funding to make them more resilient, when the truth is they're at the bottom, with no accountability about how that money is allocated, no real accountability. And the voice of those places is just simply not heard in the same way as others by those unaccountable agencies. They were not told, quote, "We'll give you whatever money is needed and it will be spent," as Mr Cameron once told the home counties when they flooded in the 2014 floods. Another recent example has been the huge illegal waste dump in Bickershaw, which the authorities initially refused to shift, even though they had done so in the same circumstances in Oxfordshire. These are the things that need to change. If politics can't fix these things and can't deliver fairness across the country, equal treatment, it's no wonder that people lose faith. It's no wonder that things start to fragment. And this will threaten devolution in the north of England if we have a toxic politics underneath the combined authorities, in the local authorities. Local authorities are not able to do the basic things. We've had to support Trafford Council this year because of a poor national settlement. And that's just not how it should be. Local government should be given the funds it needs to discharge its statutory responsibilities, but it often isn't given that funding to do that. And this could threaten devolution in the north of England, because the foundations upon which it is built are the local authorities, that are the members of those combined authorities. And we really need to use this moment to tell some home truths to people in Whitehall, because it really can't go on like this. I want to say sorry to the residents of the Makerfield constituency for the circus that is about to arrive in town and some of the inconvenience they will experience as a result. But on the other hand, I want to say this to them as well. I hope you feel it's a good thing as well that the places that make up this constituency, long forgotten by national politics, finally are at the centre of the national debate. And for the places of this constituency, again, you could read many other similar places in yours. Let's get them at the top of the agenda for the first time in a very long time. And that's what this by-election will hopefully succeed in doing. My plan for Makerfield will be ambitious, and it will show how we lift up its people and places over the next decade. It will involve action to make the basics of life more affordable, like rents, bills and fares. All rail stations and services in Makerfield coming into the B network and leading to a big reduction for people in the cost of public transport and the cost of travel. It will involve the reindustrialisation of our part of the world, for instance through the work I am doing as Mayor to bring modern manufacturing to the PPG site in Hindley Green. Changes to education to make technical education the equal of the university route and give young people new paths into good jobs. How wrong it is that for the best part of 30 years now, the debate in education has all been about the university route, and the whole system has been built to support the university route. What about those millions of kids across the north of England who want technical qualifications, who want paths into good jobs and support to get to those jobs? What about them? Who has been speaking for them and their life chances in recent decades? They've been written off. They've not featured in the national political debate. That is one of the things that this by-election is going to change, because I've been speaking about them. I will continue to speak about them and their aspirations and their life chances, and that is a big way in which politics needs to change. Not just sending messages into the middle ground of voters, but speaking for all people, and particularly kids, who most need politicians to focus on their life chances, which is what we've been doing in Greater Manchester. Thank you. I will make the building of more council homes part of my Makerfield plan, building on my work as Greater Manchester Mayor. And I want to come back to where I started with, how do we make this work, and then how does this become a template and a settlement that works for all of the combined authorities in the north represented in this room, doing great work. And as far as I'm concerned, on the same path as Greater Manchester. We're all working more and more together, and summits like this bring out that collaboration. And I think we can all go so much further in the next decade if we're set up to do so. We've proved the concept, haven't we? We've proved it works. We've proved that we are doing more for our communities than Whitehall ever did for us. They never even had an ambition for the different parts of the north. It took devolution to give us the ability to set an ambition and then to go towards it. But think about what we could do more with a more determined approach in the next decade. The things I've just outlined will only succeed with serious rewiring of this country to transfer power and resources back to local areas. And that's what I want to do if I am returned to Parliament. It depends upon maximum devolution of power and resources from national government to local government. And I want anyone, obviously, from the national system to really understand that. We can't have this halfway house anymore, where something gets devolved, but none of the people get devolved, and they sit there marking the homework of the combined authorities and finding new ways of putting pressure on us to do something that they want. It's time to trust the regions of this country, free them up, let them get on with the job. It means less delivery through unaccountable national agencies. And it means more things coming under local democratic control, like our buses. We can't go on with a bloated national state and a malnourished local one. It is time for public servants to be transferred into local authorities and combined authorities to give them the capacity and the agency to get things done. This is how we underpin the next decade of devolution in the north of England. It's the type of change I want to see for the people of Makerfield. The positive energy it will unlock will be huge. It will bring people back together, get places like Makerfield working, and move us beyond some of the divisive debates of the last decade. My view is that Brexit has been damaging, but I also believe the last thing we should do right now is rerun those arguments. Britain will be stuck in a permanent rut if we're just constantly arguing and people are pulling away from each other. It is time, surely, isn't it, to bring people back together, to focus on what we've got in common, to get the growth coming to all places so it's felt there. That is what we need in this moment. And it's really important that whatever comes out of this by-election, there's a more kind of unifying feeling about the change that we need to work towards. I am not proposing that the UK considers rejoining the EU. I respect the decision that was made at the referendum, and it's going to undermine everything I've said about strengthening democracy if we don't respect that vote. If we are to unify communities and the country, it means focusing on the big economic challenges we have, the structural problems that I've been talking about before, the fact that we gave away so many of the levers of economic power when we deregulated and privatised. That is a problem. You know, we don't have control of the basics and the cost of them, and therefore we don't have control of public spending. If local authorities are facing the costs of temporary accommodation and the benefit system is chasing rents in the private rented sector, as we are right now, how can we control our costs as a country? It is about getting a fundamental grip on those things, and that's the main thing that matters. We need a relentless domestic focus in this period. Let's fix our own country. Let's get it working again. Let's get it back to where people want it to be. I sense a real yearning out there that people feel, why aren't we where we should be? Why aren't things just working as they should? And that's what I think has to be our focus now, fixing the fundamentals of our own country rather than plunging into another divisive debate about a relationship with other countries. But I do support what this government is doing in driving for a stronger, more collaborative approach with Europe, our closest neighbours with whom we share so much. So, in conclusion, everybody, I decided to put myself forward to bring this debate to the fore. Too much of what we need to change is in the hands of others. The North doesn't have all of the control that it needs to turn things around, to turn around the lives of our people, to give new life to our towns and our high streets. We just don't have it. And if we're to take what we've done in the last decade and then go further and deeper in the next, there's going to have to be a serious transfer of power and resources right across the north of England. The places where I grew up, long ignored by national politics, are finally at the centre of the nation's attention. And I can't tell you how proud that makes me feel. And I was growing up, I saw them go into decline. I was at school in this area when the mines were closed and industry closed in the 1980s. And they've just not recovered any time since. So to have them now, through this by-election, under the spotlight, that does make me happy, because the people there can now rightly demand of Westminster, Whitehall and all of the political parties, what are you going to do for us? And they all have to answer that question now because of this by-election. And then the public will be able to choose between the answers that they are given. And that's how it should be. We're putting power back in their hands, and people need to justify what they believe to the people of these communities. all of the parties standing in this by-election need to set out clearly how they would change things to change life in Plattbridge, Abram, Bickershaw, Hindley, particularly those parties to my right who were all cheerleaders for the Thatcherite policies which laid us low in the first place. Will they now disown them, apologise for them? We'll be waiting to hear. I am clear about what I am offering. If I get to stand, a vote for me will be a vote to change Labour, because Labour needs to change if we're to regain people's trust. It'll be a vote to make life more affordable again, a vote to power up places, a vote to re-industrialise. This is the choice in this by-election. Do you want Makerfield and the North to stay on the same path it's been for the last 40 years? Or do you want a new path which brings the country back together and makes it work for everyone? I know why I'm standing, I know what I'm offering, I know what my party has offered in the past has simply not been good enough. The loss of faith of voters across the North, so many of whom once saw us as their natural party, is our fault, and nobody else's. I want to help fix that, and I hope people will give me the chance to make that case. Thank you very much indeed for listening, everyone.
Well, that was Andy Burnham speaking in Leeds, not just about northern investment, which of course was the point of this particular event, but also about his plans for the country. His plan for radical devolution to the regions, taking power away from central government and giving it to local government. He also clarified his view on Brexit, saying, "My view is that Brexit has been damaging, but I also believe that the last thing we should do is reopen those arguments. It's time to bring people back together."
Yes, he had a lot to say, some of it more coherent than at other points, I should say, talking about trickle-down economics, talking about how we need to re-industrialise, talking about how a vote for him is a vote to make life more affordable for everyone. So this was a pitch very much to the people of Makerfield, but also to the North in general, I would say, and a little bit to the rest of the country.
Just a touch.
A little bit.
But of course he said that the Makerfield by-election is no ordinary by-election. That's the clear message from the Mayor of Greater Manchester, Andy Burnham, speaking at that Great North Summit today.
Yes, he said the contest is a necessary one, arguing the UK has been on the wrong path for the last 40 years. He was in government for quite a bit, though.
I believe the by-election is very necessary. In my view, the time has come for a much bigger debate about how politics needs to change if it is to work properly for the north of England, because it doesn't. It doesn't. And this is what we've got to focus on. People are losing faith in politics. More than anything, that's what people's votes were saying on Thursday, the 7th of May. They deserve a bigger response than politicians have given them before. And that's what I intend to provide in this by-election like no other.
Well, this speech comes as Labour's Brexit battles have been reignited, as Andy Burnham's allies accuse Wes Streeting, the former Health Secretary, of attempting to derail his campaign for number 10.
Well, let's speak to Catherine Forster, our chief political correspondent. Catherine, we've heard from Andy Burnham. What did you make of all that?
Well, I think the sound you just heard was the Mayor of Greater Manchester, Andy Burnham, who said last autumn that he would like us to rejoin the EU in his lifetime, kicking Brexit into the long grass, because the vast majority of his speech was made before he mentioned it, and then when he did mention it, he said, "I think that Brexit has been damaging, but the last thing we need is to rerun the arguments of Brexit. We need to bring people together." He said, not have a divisive debate. I think we can have a look at that now. Let's have a look at what he said.
My view is that Brexit has been damaging, but I also believe the last thing we should do right now is rerun those arguments. Britain will be stuck in a permanent rut if we're just constantly arguing and people are pulling away from each other. It is time, surely, isn't it, to bring people back together, to focus on what we've got in common, to get the growth coming to all places so it's felt there. That is what we need in this moment. And it's really important that whatever comes out of this by-election, there's a more kind of unifying feeling about the change that we need to work towards.
Yes, he also said that he respected the vote and that he was not suggesting to rejoin. So that is his attempt to move on from this discussion which has surfaced yet again. And he made a very much broader point, didn't he? Saying it's not just that these communities have been left behind and deserted and failed by Brexit, but that Britain has spent, he said, 40 years on the wrong path, beginning with the deindustrialisation, he said, in the 80s. He said the draining away of economic, social and political power, compounded by deregulation, privatisation and then later austerity. And he brought it back to, well, Reform and Nigel Farage, because he said the right had been the cheerleaders of Thatcherite policy that he feels has been so damaging. He also said something I think many people will agree with. If politics can't fix something as basic as a pothole, we've got a very big problem. He admitted that Labour just hadn't been good enough, and he felt that the working class communities had been left by Labour, and he said that that was our fault, the fault of the Labour Party, but that he wants to change that. He talks about making the basics of life more affordable, and he said that if he becomes MP for Makerfield, he will extend the B network, and that will bring the cost of transport down. That's one of his biggest achievements, I think, as the Mayor of Greater Manchester, this B network, the sort of tap in, tap out, the same as we have in London, and that £2 bus cap. I thought it was interesting too what he said about young people, because often we hear so much about older voters because they vote, the triple lock, etc., etc. He talked about young people and basically said, what about all the young people who don't want to go to university? It's not for everyone. What about technical education, saying that so many of them had been written off, and said that politicians needed to focus on kids and their life chances. I think it will be a speech that will have impressed many people. Of course, it's going to be very, very difficult for him to win this seat, because all the wards in the local elections in that area went to Reform just a week and a half ago.
Big question mark, is it not, Catherine? I mean, it's all very well that Andy Burnham is sort of saying that he's going to do all of these things. He does have to get past the people of Makerfield first, and perhaps that screeching Brexit U-turn from Andy Burnham that we've just heard in the last 20 or so minutes, perhaps that is sort of aimed at squarely winning that by-election. I'm sure it is. Catherine Forster will be back with you, of course, a little bit later, but thanks indeed for joining us live from Downing Street.
Right, well, let's speak to the Labour MP for Camborne and Redruth, Perin Moon. Perin, thank you very much indeed for joining us. So we've just heard from Andy Burnham, and I must say, quite a lot of the response from our viewers haven't been too impressed. Carl's got in touch. He says the good people of Makerfield being treated as total mugs to enhance Burnham's personal career. There's a lot of that coming through. People seeing that he's just using this Makerfield by-election, potentially, just as a stepping stone to a bigger job.
But we've got to wait for the selection process to be completed. You'll have to forgive me. I'm catching up with news. I've just got off a train from Cornwall, so I don't know whether that selection process has been completed yet.
The shortlist is on Wednesday, and the final selection is on Thursday.
Thank you, Tom. I'm very grateful to you. So, look, we don't know who the candidate is yet. Frankly, I mean, you know, Andy is a great guy. He's a very strong candidate. We know he's putting his name forward. But ultimately, these are comments that really we need to add respect to the members of Makerfield, the members of the Labour Party within Makerfield. We should probably be holding off till then. But yeah, clearly, interesting kind of evolution of position.
He's not holding off, is he? He's behaving as though he is the candidate already. Does it look rather entitled, perhaps?
You know, he's the mayor of Manchester. He has a platform, and he's doing a great job as mayor, and he has done a great job as mayor. So he does have a platform to talk to people and let people know what his thoughts are, and I don't begrudge him that at all.
Now, of course, Perin, you're loyal to Keir Starmer. You've been one of his most vocal defenders over the course of the last couple of difficult weeks that the Prime Minister's had. How do you personally feel about Andy Burnham trashing his record, saying that this Labour government hasn't gone far enough, that it hasn't been doing the right things, particularly for communities in the north?
Well, look, we've accepted that we haven't got everything right. You know, we haven't got, we have made mistakes as a government, but I'm afraid we've made far more positive changes to the UK than negative. And you just have to look at NHS waiting list falling, 6 interest rate cuts, halving of the asylum backlog.
We were expected to have far more interest rate cuts than we've actually had. Just because interest rates have come down doesn't mean that that's a success of the government. Before this government was elected, we were expecting many more cuts in a far shorter order.
Also, have you seen mortgage rates recently?
We know we've been buffeted by international events in Iran. Interest rate cuts are indicative of economic stability. They aren't cut when you know, if we had a run on the pound. So we know that we've been buffeted by what's been happening in Iran. It's going to have a negative impact on the economy. But actually, if you do look at the GDP figures for the 3 months, in fact, at the start of the year, we've got the highest growth in the G7. I read this morning that the IMF have just upgraded their growth ratings for the UK. So look, we've made mistakes. I'm not arguing that we haven't made some policy mistakes, but the vast majority of what we're doing, whether that's on asylum, whether that's on the economy, whether that's on the NHS, whether that's on renationalising
just to be clear on those two different things, because you mentioned the Q1 economic forecast, economic figures versus the IMF forecast for the year. The year does not say that we'll be the fastest in the G7. Far from it. We'll be slower than about a third the speed of the United States, slower than France. I mean, many other countries doing better than us. Q1, strangely, seems to be very good each and every year, and then we have much lower Q2, 3, 4. Let's not get bogged down in the statistics, though. There's a broader argument.
I would say, Tom, is that those forecasts they've been upgraded, and you know, as you say, forecasts are forecasts. I like to look at absolute stats. In the first quarter of this year, GDP growth was the highest in the G7.
Yeah, statistical artifact, perhaps.
Just personally, how do you feel? Because you obviously won your seat to Labour down in Cornwall. It's looking like, according to the pollsters, that Reform would win that seat if there were to be an election. Do you worry about Keir Starmer being at the top of the helm? Would you like to see a bit of a change?
Emily, absolutely not. We're 3 years. You know, you can look at polls now. You can look at vote share. I worry about, the only poll I worry about is the next general election, which will be in probably 3 years' time. We've made good progress over the last 2 years towards this decade of renewal. We've got a long way to go. Hasn't been faultless. I've said it hasn't been faultless. We've made mistakes, but I'm very keen that we try and continue to get the investment into rural areas, into remote coastal areas like Cornwall, in order to regenerate, and that process has started. We need to accelerate it.
Just quickly and finally, this does seem to be a bit of an unstable time. Do you expect that if Andy Burnham wins this by-election, there will be a leadership contest? He will challenge Keir Starmer, and frankly, will Keir Starmer fight him for it?
You know, you're asking me about hypotheticals again, Tom, which is fair enough. OK.
I think it's the question everyone's thinking about.
Yeah, sure. Look, if Andy Burnham wins, and I very much hope he does, we're going to be campaigning like mad for him to win. And if he reaches, you know, there's a process to reach 81 members, which is a fair old whack of the Parliamentary Labour Party, just in pure numbers terms, then I very much hope that the Prime Minister will be able to set out his case for being Prime Minister. That will be a decision entirely for the Prime Minister. And as I said, I've mentioned if about 3 or 4 times in that sentence, so we'll have to wait and see.
Well, I mean, to be fair, a lot of Brits watching this feel like there's a bit of a game going on and they're being treated as pawns in all of this. But Perin Moon, thank you very much indeed, Labour MP for Camborne and Redruth down in Cornwall. I can't help but think there is a huge amount of arrogance at the moment to think you can just go from being Mayor of Manchester to Prime Minister via by-election that you've managed to sort out with one of your friends.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think people will raise an eyebrow about a seat just being given to someone else rather than
I think it's outrageous myself, but it is the rules. It can go like this.
Now, some breaking news to bring you. London Underground strikes, due to take place tomorrow and on Thursday, have just been called off. That's the RMT, the union has just announced.
Oh, well, you'll have to come to work then. The RMT say Transport for London has shifted its position on rosters, fatigue and safety issues.
Well, we'll have more on that breaking news story for you, of course, later in the programme. But just to repeat, those strikes scheduled for this week in London have now been called off.
OK, well, good news for commuters. But it is now time for the Great British Giveaway. It's your chance to win £76,543.21. Tax-free cash. Here's how to enter.
We're counting down to a spectacular summer. It's your chance to win £76,543 and 21 pence in totally tax-free cash. A lump sum that you could have in time to splash out with this summer. Imagine all the things you could do with that cash. Give the garden a glow up, max out on a new motor, or just make sure the coming year is your year. And because it's tax-free, you get to keep every single penny for a chance to win £76,543 and 21 pence in tax-free cash. Text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pulled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, there you go. This is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. We've got lots more coming up.
Yes, the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, tells his staff at the Labour Party he's focused on the job and will support the party's Makerfield candidate, whoever they are. So, what will he make of Andy Burnham's speech and what Burnham has just said? Well, we'll get to that. But after the break...
Reform UK says one of its immigration videos has been banned under the Online Safety Act, accusing Labour of shameful censorship.
Well, all of that and indeed more to come. You're with GB News, Britain's news channel.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray. Are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline.
Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What we're going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It is 22 minutes past 2. Now, a Reform Party TikTok video has been banned by the application after accusations of hate speech.
Britain has been overwhelmed by immigration, both legal and illegal. More people have turned up on our beaches uninvited over the last 7 years than stormed the beaches of Normandy on D-Day.
It's a punchy clip, but should it be banned? Zia Youssef has accused Labour of using the Online Safety Act to silence their opponents after the video was taken down.
Well, Reform's 2028 London mayoral candidate, Layla Cunningham, joins us now in the studio. Layla, is it fair to say that Labour has deliberately taken this video down, or is this just a mistake from TikTok?
Well, I think the online safety bill was billed as something to protect children, and I've sat on that chair many a times and said, actually, no, what you're going to find is it will curb political dissent, and that's what you're seeing here. You know, you've seen that the online safety bill, and perhaps TikTok's scared of, £1 million fines being imposed, so they err on the side of safety. But I wouldn't blame TikTok, I'd blame the legislation that, as you can see, is curbing. I mean, I don't think there's anything harmful about what Zia Youssef said. Everything he said is completely true. It was all based in facts. And the problem is when you go down the path of subjectively deeming something as harmful content, anything can be harmful content, right? And what the government now you're seeing is what they don't agree with, or anything that criticises their record can be deemed as harmful content. That's the way it is. And harm, I find... I do find, for instance, with the protest on Saturday, Sadiq Khan came and said about harm, and so did, we're not going to, about Unite the Kingdom march. But when people march with the IRGC with signs of Ayatollah Khomeini saying death to Jews and death to the West, that's not harm in their instance. But, if you wave a flag and you say immigration's too high, that is deemed harm.
Have you spoken to Nadine Dorries, the former Conservative minister, now Reform Party member, about all this? Because it's been pointed out, not just by me, that she was an architect of this act.
No, I mean, I've never been a fan of the online safety bill. In fact, when I first defected to Reform, at my first interview, he said, is there any policy that really you hated once you were part of the Conservatives? I said, well, which ones can I name? Many. But one of them was the online safety bill, because for me, a fundamental freedom is freedom of speech. And you could see it would curb it. Once the Secretary of State has the discretion to curb anything that they deem harmful, our freedoms of speech are no longer in our hands, they're in the hands of the government.
I think one of the really interesting things here is about how regulation works compared to how it's written in the text of the law versus how it works applied to the real world. Because I remember speaking to many, many politicians at the time of this long and protracted process of the then Online Safety Bill, now Act, going through Parliament, where they said, oh, there's going to be so many protections for freedom. This is not going to clamp down on political discourse. It's just about content that's harmful for children. But then, Layla, as you rightly say, if you're going to have a percentage of turnover for these companies, not even profit, but turnover, as a fine, and the threat of imprisoning executive of these companies, they're not just going to go by the letter of... They're not going to apply a sort of narrow legal test to every case. They're going to err on the side of caution and ban many more things than ordinarily you'd think, because if they get one thing wrong, the consequences are so heavy for them. I suppose all of the incentives in that act are for executives and these companies, perhaps even to not have a human doing this at all, but just automatically banning things with an algorithm.
Well, it's probably AI, right? And they're probably, I don't know if the government's given them words to look for, but if your viewers have seen the video, I don't see what hate is in that video. Zia stated facts. It is actually, everything he said is true. And these are legitimate concerns that the British public face, and they're legitimate public opinions. And they're so legitimate that we're polling highest with these opinions. In the past 250 polls, we've won a local election, and yet we are not allowed to voice what millions of British people feel.
So what are the Reform, if they were to get into government, going to do about the whole issue of children's safety on the internet? Because it's OK to say we don't like the Online Safety Act because it clamps down on freedom of speech, as we can see from what's happened to this TikTok clip. But what are you going to do instead? Because it's very, very true that there is a lot of harmful content on there.
Well, I'll ask you this. Has harmful content stopped as a result of the Online Safety Bill, or is it more political dissent that's being stopped? I haven't seen...
That's a good question.
I haven't seen any factual data that harmful content for children has been stopped, because sadly we have people writing legislation that are not tech savvy at all. We have VPNs. So you can access... and another thing is that they want to bring an age limit for social media, an age verification. I take offence to that. I don't want to give my identity. I want to be anonymous if I want to on social media platforms. And as you and I know, it's really not going to stop 16-year-olds or under 16-year-olds.
But then you could have potential, you know, paedophiles or rapists or violent individuals, you know, just using the internet as a Wild West. You're happy with that? Is that the price we pay for freedom of speech?
Yeah, because that's going to happen anyway. With VPNs, people find a way around technology. You know, you can use fake documents. It's not... When you curb freedoms in the guise of safety, I think you end up with neither. You know, that's what we've seen. You know, we won't end up with more safety, but we'll end up with less freedom, and that's what's happened.
It is curious that when politicians say we're going to provide a protection for children, I think a lot of people will think that sounds like a great idea because that will only affect children. But actually, no, it will affect everyone because you'll have to prove that you're not a child in order to use a service. It becomes a barrier to entry. And it's why TikTok is taking down this video that for instance, probably someone has complained about it being inappropriate for under 18s. But obviously, there are under 18s on TikTok. There aren't two different TikToks, one for adults and one for children. Even with the Labour Party's proposals to ban under 16s or find a way to restrict under 16s from accessing social media, this would still be banned because the terms of the Online Safety Act is about under 18s, not about under 16s.
Yeah, but
so you have all these different levels.
Let me play devil's advocate, though, because I do think that there is a lot of concern that tech bosses have even more power than governments. I mean, you know, and people do worry that tech giants can manipulate algorithms to get children addicted, and adults, of course, to social media, and then ply them with negative content that can have damaging consequences. Are the Reform Party just saying, we're just going to leave the internet, we're not going to even try and, you know, regulate in any way on this type of stuff? You could post whatever you like, whenever you like.
Let me ask you this. How long have we been manipulated by the mainstream media? How long, at least on social media, ordinary people get to perhaps control some of the narrative? I don't know. You know, when I was young, I trusted those newspapers implicitly. And now I realise that actually they are a form of propaganda, some of them, and they try and form and shape public opinion. We've seen the BBC. I mean, they doctored something that Trump said. So I don't see regulation going on the BBC. And what's harmful today or what's not harmful today will be harmful tomorrow. And I think the public deserve to know I get to decide what's harmful. I don't need the government deciding for me. I'm an adult, and if I see something on TikTok and I find it harmful, I won't watch it again. But it's not up to the Secretary of State, it's not up to the government to tell me what to see or what I can't do. I'm free.
Sure. Some people find it very hard to see the difference between an AI video, though, and one that's...
My mother the other day was on YouTube. And
we're talking about 92. Children. We should be talking about retirees, actually, when it comes to...
My kids recognise AI very quickly.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, look at that hotel. It looks like... They're like, Mum, that's AI. But my mum, 92, bless you, she rings me, she goes, oh, my God. And this was really worrying. She goes, has King Charles died? I said, why, Mum? She goes, I've seen the funeral on YouTube.
Oh,
and it was a whole AI. People have done deep fakes of me.
Yeah.
I posted it on X. There's been 2 deep fakes on me on TikTok where it's completely me. And I'm saying something...
But by your argument, we should just let that...
But is the position of the Reform Party that existing law is sufficient to take down, for example, impersonation? I mean, there are laws around impersonation.
Yeah, impersonation's different.
And there are laws around libel, but ultimately, are they strong enough to deal with how fast and rapid the internet is for spreading this stuff?
Well, of course not, but it's coming, right? And the more you regulate, the more there'll be ways to remove it. And as I've said before, they always try and guilt trip us in that it's for the safety of children. But we've seen now that it's not for the safety of children. It is actually curbing political... We very well know that the Labour Party doesn't approve of anything Zia said in that video, and they don't want people to see it. I think freedom... We have to be a beacon of freedom of speech in this country, or else our fundamental British values, what are they? They are freedom of speech, freedom of thought, freedom to offend.
OK. Well, let us know at home what you make of that. Layla Cunningham, thank you very much indeed for your time. Well, a Department of Science, Innovation and Technology spokesperson has told DB News.
The decision to remove content is made by the platforms independently. The Online Safety Act is designed to keep children safe online, protecting them from harmful content and not to censor political debate. It doesn't enable platforms to arbitrarily remove content, and tech firms have a duty to uphold freedom of expression.
OK, well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. We've got lots more coming up on today's show too, so do stick with us. But first, it's your latest news headlines.
Good afternoon. The headlines at 2:33. The Mayor of Greater Manchester, Andy Burnham, says that Makerfield is no ordinary by-election and that Britain has been on the wrong path for 40 years. In a speech at the Great North Investment Summit, Mr Burnham directly addressed the constituency of Makerfield, saying there are some home truths that need to be told to Whitehall.
People are losing faith in politics. More than anything, that's what people's votes were saying on Thursday, the 7th of May. They deserve a bigger response than politicians have given them before.
Well, earlier, Josh Simons formally resigned as the MP for Makerfield, paving the way for that by-election in which Mr Burnham hopes to stand as Labour's candidate. Elsewhere, the IMF has upgraded its forecast for the UK's growth this year, but warned the Iran war and domestic uncertainty could hit the economy. The growth estimate has been upgraded to 1% from 0.8% for 2026. While the UK remains resilient, the IMF warned that the ongoing conflict in the Middle East risked hitting growth and resulting in higher energy and food prices. While sticking with Iran, Donald Trump issued a fresh threat to the country, saying Tehran better get moving fast or there won't be anything left of them. A breaking update this lunchtime. Strikes planned for tomorrow and Thursday by London Underground drivers has been called off. That's according to the RMT union. The bodies of 4 missing divers have been found in the Maldives. 5 Italians in total are believed to have died while exploring a cave at a depth of around 50 metres, according to Italy's foreign ministry. And the hantavirus-hit cruise ship, the MV Hondius, has arrived at the port of Rotterdam. The ship will now be disinfected and 25 crew members and 2 medics will go into quarantine. Those are your latest GB News headlines. Sophia Wensler will have more at 3 o'clock.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Well, lots more coming up on today's show.
People are losing faith in politics. More than anything, that's what people's votes were saying on Thursday, the 7th of May. They deserve a bigger response than politicians have given them before.
Well, Andy Burnham faces a perilous race to win the Makerfield seat as he gears up to fight a by-election, if indeed he's selected as Labour's candidate, that could decide the long-term future of the Labour Party and the country.
Yes, we're going to bring you the very latest. You're with GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Warmer weather is on the way, but before it turns warmer, it's going to turn wetter. A lot of cloud today, showery rain, some sunshine in between the showers, especially towards the north and the east of the UK. But weather systems are rolling in now from the west and southwest. A number of weather fronts are going to affect us during the next 48 hours or so. First weather front bringing showers to many northern and eastern parts of the UK. Some heavy downpours, even the odd rumble of thunder. The best of the dry weather, northeast Scotland, especially Shetland and Orkney. Further west, showers ease, but some longer spells of rain start to approach by the end of the afternoon. A lot of cloud here. Feeling a touch less cold compared with recent days, but with a lot of cloud in the sky, not especially pleasant. We end the day with these showers moving their way east and northeast across Scotland, merging to give longer spells of rain at times. Some sunshine in between, especially the west coast and the east coast inland. It's more showery and cloudier. And we've got this area of cloud and showers affecting the Pennines into the Midlands, East Anglia and the southeast. Further west, as I say, the showers easing, but more persistent damp weather approaching Northern Ireland, Wales and the southwest. Winds freshening through the evening, and then the heavier rain moves in overnight across Northern Ireland, Wales and the southwest. Rain also reaching eastern and some northern parts of the UK, but the far northeast staying largely dry with a lot of cloud and that wind picking up. It's a milder night compared with many recent nights, temperatures staying in the double figures in places, but a damp start to the day for Scotland, for northern England and the east. Then we've got brighter skies emerging from the west, but with lots of showers moving in, especially for Western England, Wales and Northern Ireland. These showers will be slow moving and heavy, but at least where we avoid the showers, it will feel a bit warmer.
Thank you, Britain, for the thousands of you who are becoming friends of GB News every week.
You're not only watching and listening to our programmes, you're becoming part of them too.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. On the M6 northbound between junctions 16 and 17 in Cheshire East, one lane is closed due to a broken down vehicle, with delays expected to clear shortly after 3 this afternoon. The A434 southbound in Oxfordshire is partially blocked between junctions with the M40 and A44. In Hampshire, the A34 southbound is congested between the A272 and the M3 junction, causing delays of around 30 minutes. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast services face disruption between Stafford and Lichfield Trent Valley. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's just coming up to 20 to 3. Now, the Makerfield by-election is no ordinary by-election. It's an M&S. No, I'm joking. That's the message from the Mayor of Greater Manchester. Other supermarkets are available. Andy Burnham speaking at the Great North Summit today.
Oh, you do make me giggle, Tom. Burnham said the contest is a necessary one, arguing the UK has been on the wrong path for the last 40 years.
I believe the by-election is very necessary. In my view, the time has come for a much bigger debate about how politics needs to change if it is to work properly for the north of England, because it doesn't. It doesn't. And this is what we've got to focus on. People are losing faith in politics. More than anything, that's what people's votes were saying on Thursday, the 7th of May. They deserve a bigger response than politicians have given them before. And that's what I intend to provide in this by-election like no other.
Failed for 40 years, he says. Don't know what it is about the year 1986 that he thinks was such a turning point. Is he trying to say he liked the first 2 terms of Margaret Thatcher, but the 3rd term of Thatcher was the one that he really disagreed with? I'm not sure.
How such? Although, you know, he did serve under New Labour, did he not? So he had something to do with that past 40 years.
Well, he was first a special advisor, and then he was an MP in 2001 when he was a very young man. I mean, he spent his entire life as a creature of Westminster until he became Manchester Mayor, of course.
And he tried to be leader of the Labour Party not once but twice before.
Yeah.
Potentially a 3rd time this time around.
His 2010 contest was actually quite funny. He gave his first interview to The Sun, which is a big no-no in Labour circles these days, but he did it in the back of a black cab, sort of an interview with the Sun newspaper. And then in 2015, he tried to pretend to be much more left-wing than he was in 2010. He's had a fair few positions, I think it's fair to say.
Who is he, other than ambitious? Should we speak to the journalist Ella Whelan? Ella, great to have you on the show. We're getting a lot of viewers getting in touch, Ella, saying this is total opportunism, arrogance from Andy Burnham, thinking that he can just, you know, find a seat and suddenly become Prime Minister.
Yeah, I would echo those feelings. I mean, it is extremely arrogant, but potentially unwise. I mean, Makerfield is an interesting constituency. You know, the recent election results show that it's, I think you can probably safely say the Brexit spirit still lives there. It was a 65% Leave constituency. You know, the reform support there is probably linked to that sentiment. And someone coming in and actually, you know, funnily enough, Andy Burnham not even having the sort of sense to talk about and to Makerfield voters, you know, to give it even the sort of appearance that he cares about this particular constituency, but already talking in the round as if he was, as you know, hoping that he is going to become Labour leader. I think that that's just the definition of arrogance. It's interesting there, the clip you just played of him, you know, picking that apart, the fact that he says that you know, recent election results show that people are just put off with politics, that they've lost faith in politics, as if it's like this abstract thing, as if it's just like, you know, people have, there's no real sort of reason why. It's just that they've generally lost faith in politics. It's your fault. It's your party's fault, and probably more broadly, particularly in working class areas, in places like Makerfield, or in the north or anywhere else. It's because of what happened 10 years ago, post the 2016 Brexit vote, and the assault on working class people's political aspirations and desires. So the idea that it's just like, chin scratching, why have people turned off from politics? I know the solution, it'll be me, is just deluded beyond imagine. So, you know, I hope that he really, really gets shown what any sensible people think about that kind of arrogant politics, and I hope he gets trounced whenever this by-election comes about.
And yet it's fair to say he is popular in Greater Manchester. He won with North Korean-style margins across the different council areas of Greater Manchester last time he stood to be mayor. I think part of that might have been that on COVID he seemed to be basically the one politician in the country in any level of authority that was sort of pushing back against some of those restrictions, fighting for the area of Manchester which was under harsher restrictions for longer. I wonder if that sort of helped carve his political identity a little bit. But interestingly, the forecasts and the pollsters and the modelling suggests this is a knife-edge fight.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. I mean, the thing that probably Andy Burnham might not have taken into consideration is he's fine when he's Mr. Manchester, and all the things you just said are true, and he's quite good at being the sort of regional voice. But when he starts to talk as if he is Mr. Labour, the party leader, the differences between him and Keir Starmer, or even him and Wes Streeting, are very slight. I mean, you know, there was a story come out this morning about, you know, potentially Andy Burnham doing something radically different with, drumroll please, tax. You're like, okay, you know, the ideologies of these people are, one, non-existent, and if they do exist, they're very, very similar. The only thing that any of these candidates, potentially for the next Labour Party leader, and Keir Starmer have in common is the fact that they hate Brexit. So Wes Streeting's intervention in the last 12 hours is great, I think. You know, it's good that we sort of get all of this out in the open, everything that we know exists. We know Andy Burnham doesn't like Brexit. We knew Wes Streeting doesn't like Brexit. We know Keir Starmer doesn't like Brexit, Angela Rayner, any of them. So, you know, the idea that Andy Burnham is going to be, you know, charge into Westminster and become Labour's saviour and reignite people's passion in politics, you're imagining a man that doesn't exist right now, unless he has some secret manifesto that he's told no one, that's a radically different political agenda to his predecessor. Nothing is going to change.
Yes, he talks as though he hasn't been in politics for the last God knows how many years. Ella Whelan, thank you very much indeed, journalist. Thank you for your time. Yeah, it's almost like he's sort of been plucked from obscurity and this massive insurgent figure.
And all anyone ever speaks about with him is the buses. and so you get this sort of blank canvas on which people are projecting their hopes and their own aspirations. But yeah, when he starts filling out that canvas, perhaps people will see that their own hopes and aspirations are not reflected back.
Yes, we'll see. This is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. We're going to be heading to the Chelsea Flower Show next. Yes.
Yes, justice there has prevailed for the gnomes, as a 36-year ban on those gnomes has been overturned for charity.
How lovely. But if you're in search of some holiday sun, here's the forecast for Europe.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello. We've got some rain affecting France as we go through Tuesday. Warm in the sunshine elsewhere with a few showers. There is a bit more cloud across the Canary Islands and across Madeira. Best of the sunshine across Portugal and Spain. Outbreaks of rain affecting France. Elsewhere, many places seeing sunny spells. A few showers bubbling up as we go into the afternoons. But otherwise, temperatures are on the rise. Plenty of sunshine. Highs into the mid to high 20s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace to Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Unbelievable thing you've done. How are you?
I'm absolutely exhausted.
I bet you are.
Yeah.
I don't know how you got in here today, frankly. But you know what I really love, and this is the thing that inspires everybody, because everybody gets inspired when they see the marathon on TV. I was driving along on Sunday, and honestly, I counted 30 runners out on the streets, which you would never normally see. Now, you have never been a constant runner, someone that's always been out there on the street, because you went from nothing to do this, is that right?
I was not even a sports fan, so unlike you, big Spurs fan, I know, but I was unfit, not into sports at all. I turned 40 2 years ago. It's my birthday next week. And thank you. And I decided to do this charity challenge. So actually, it will be my 2-year running anniversary in May.
Wow. Right, now I don't even get how you suddenly go, you know what, I'm going to be this, let's run across India, let's do 100 marathons, because do you start with literally like the old counts to 5K and then we move on and then move on and move on?
Yeah, definitely started with 5K runs, and obviously that massively grew. Totally. But yeah, the run across India was basically from the Pakistan border, and then I ran east and then kind of down to the centre and then to the east to the Bengal border, which was 100 marathon distance in 100 days. And it was along something called the Old Inland Customs Line.
Was this... I was talking to Simon Calder just now, because we had Simon Calder in here, wasn't he, talking about holidays?
Travel correspondent.
And I was saying, I'm going off slightly on one, but he was saying, well, you know, because I'm going to fly to India before I go on a holiday somewhere else, and they said, well, you need to get a visa. Is it easy just to go to India and just say, I'm going to run across your country now?
It's not. My father was actually born in India and born in Calcutta, which is why
is this the reason you chose India?
It's one of the reasons I chose India.
Right. GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 10 to 3. Now a host of famous faces are today getting an exclusive look. First look at this year's Chelsea Flower Show.
They are indeed. From a garden designed with the King, Sir David Beckham and Alan Titchmarsh.
I like that it's designed with the King, not by the King, but I guess he is quite busy. And for the second time in history, the gnome ban is being lifted to raise funds for the Royal Horticultural Society's work with schools.
Right, let's check in with Cameron Walker, our royal correspondent, who is there for us. Cameron, how's the day going?
Well, Emily, I've been doing lots of celebrity spotting, to be perfectly honest with you. I've seen Miriam Margolyes. I almost walked into Dame Judi Dench as well. There's lots and lots of people here, but of course, the reason that I'm here is because of the King's involvement in this flower show, this garden right here, the King's Foundation's Curious Garden. It's all about getting the nation involved and interested in gardening again, and also appreciate what plants and nature do for us. But he is kind of collaborated on this garden with a number of famous faces, including Alan Titchmarsh and Sir David Beckham. Now, David Beckham is significant because there is a beehive in there, and the King and David Beckham share a love of beekeeping. But you mentioned gnomes in your introduction there. Now, gnomes are technically banned here at the Chelsea Flower Show. It's thought they are too tacky. That's what the organisers said back in the day when they first started this Chelsea Flower Show. But King Charles has brought them back. He has a love of gnomes, and as you said, it's only for 1 year only. 4 gnomes have had names written on them. King Charles III, Sir David Beckham, I think Alan Titchmarsh has one, and the garden designer too, Francis. And they're all being auctioned off to raise funds for the Royal Horticultural Society's kind of children's funds to get young people in particular involved in gardening this year. As you can see, it's absolutely packed on day 1 of the Chelsea Flower Show. Lots of celebrities here today, but the public get a chance to experience gardening, experience all the beautiful displays here of the Chelsea Flower Show all week. Hopefully the weather holds and it doesn't rain too much.
Well, Cameron, thank you very much indeed, and lucky you for getting to mingle with the rich and famous. Thanks indeed.
Yeah, some of these gardens are a little out of reach, but it provides good inspiration.
Yeah, yeah.
If you're into such things.
Well, I have to say, I think I agree with the gnome ban. I think gnomes are tacky.
Well, I haven't given them much thought myself. I've never had a gnome in my own garden, so...
No. Wow.
Do you have a gnome at home?
That's the gift for the woman who has everything.
A gnome with a little fishing rod.
I've amazing
People collect them. People go mad for them. People go mad for them.
They do. They do. Well, that's it from us. Have a. I was about to say have a lovely day, but my goodness me, there's so much more to come. Martin Daubney's up next. Don't move a muscle.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Warmer weather is on the way, but before it turns warmer, it's going to turn wetter. A lot of cloud today, showery rain, some sunshine in between the showers, especially towards the north and the east of the UK. But weather systems are rolling in now from the west and southwest. A number of weather fronts are going to affect us during the next 48 hours or so. First weather front bringing showers to many northern and eastern parts of the UK. Some heavy downpours, even the odd rumble of thunder. The best of the dry weather, northeast Scotland, especially Shetland and Orkney. Further west, showers ease, but some longer spells of rain start to approach by the end of the afternoon. A lot of cloud here. Feeling a touch less cold compared with recent days, but with a lot of cloud in the sky, not especially pleasant. We end the day with these showers moving their way east and northeast across Scotland, merging to give longer spells of rain at times. Some sunshine in between, especially the west coast and the east coast inland. It's more showery and cloudier. And we've got this area of cloud and showers affecting the Pennines into the Midlands, East Anglia and the southeast. Further west, as I say, the showers easing, but more persistent damp weather approaching Northern Ireland, Wales and the southwest. Winds freshening through the evening, and then the heavier rain moves in overnight across Northern Ireland, Wales and the southwest. Rain also reaching eastern and some northern parts of the UK, but the far northeast staying largely dry with a lot of cloud and that wind picking up. It's a milder night compared with many recent nights. Temperatures